Matt and Greg used to interview movie stars, but now they're doing a podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of
Matt and Greg used to interview movie stars.
That is the name of the show. I'm Matt Levitz.
I'm Greg Srzewski.
Today's episode, we're going to be spotlighting the film Waiting for Guffman.
Waiting for Guffman. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's not a huge box office hit, but I think the people who know it love it.
Yeah.
You either love this movie or you've never heard of it. There's kind of nothing in the middle. Nobody just kind of likes it. It's a classic.
Would you consider Corky to be one of Christopher Guest's most, I guess, iconic characters?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely a huge Spinal Tap fan, but this is up there.
Yeah.
So this junket took place September 13th, 1996. We are going to spotlight interviews with Parker Posey, Catherine O'Hara, Bob Balaban, and Fred Willard. And then following that, we'll have a press conference with Parker Posey and Catherine O'Hara again, but adding Eugene Levy and director Christopher Guest. We're not going to do junket talk. We're going to just get into it because this is already going to be... We've got 2.5 hours of interviews here and hopefully not nearly so much of us. Now, Waiting for Guffman, Greg, how would you describe what's different about this movie?
You know, this is a recollection because I haven't actually seen the movie since it first came out. I saw it in theaters, but then I saw it when it came out on VHS, I believe.
Probably.
So I haven't seen it on DVD or Blu-ray or anything like that.
Okay.
So obviously this is Spinal Tap set the template for it, but the idea of a mockumentary, breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera, that stuff was new to me. And so this was the thing that
but
really...
But also the way that it was made, which Spinal Tap started. The idea that they didn't have a script, they only had an outline.
Right.
And so the actors had to be really good improvisers because they were required to come in and create the scene out of nothing.
Create their own story, just create their own dialogue.
Yeah, their own backstories. You had to have good improv skills because you weren't talking in a vacuum. You were in a scene with other people. So they would throw ideas at you and you had to be able to catch them and laud them back and keep the scene going, keep the dialogue going. And they were essentially playing for this movie. And as you'll hear them all talk about, they had an idea of where the scene needed to go and what the beats were that they needed to hit. Because there was a story that they were telling, and they all knew what that was. It was just, they got to come up with how they would get there. So Christopher Guest had, I think it was 60 or 80 hours of footage that he then had to cut down and turn into a movie because they printed everything.
Wow.
So... quite an undertaking, but it works so well. And the reason it works is because this cast is just brilliant and hilarious. I mean, you've got people like Catherine O'Hara and Fred Willard in a room just riffing, and you're going to get gold.
Yeah.
Because they're just so funny.
Catherine O'Hara, SCTV veteran, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about her in a few minutes because we're going to hear from her. We'll get started now with Parker Posey.
First up is Parker Posey. I remember interviewing her when she was just pretty much green and she was promoting her indie film Party Girl.
Right.
Party Girl would eventually lead to her to a whole indie career. And by the time Waiting for Guffman was released, she was considered pretty much the indie cinema queen for just supporting so many independent filmmakers. So, yeah,
she's built pretty much her entire career on smaller films.
Yeah. And I remember her being very, from Party Girl, she was very vivacious and very frank and candid and fun, and you can actually get a little bit of that Parker Posey flavor with this Waiting for Guffman interview. One of the things I actually wondered after listening to this interview is, I hope Dairy Queen gave them free food or something after watching Waiting for Guffman, because that's a pretty big shout out, as considering her characters works at the Dairy Queen in Waiting for Guffman. I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, one more thing I want to say about Party Girl. Right at the beginning of this interview, Bob Healy asks her about a TV show adaptation of Party Girl.
That was so cool.
Now, the TV show, just so you know, it starred Christine Taylor in the Parker Posey role. Taylor, you probably know, is married to Ben Stiller. She appeared in Zoolander, The Wedding Singer, Dodgeball, and the Brady Bunch movies as Marcia. At the time of this junket, the first episode of the TV show had premiered only 4 days earlier, and then it was canceled 3 weeks later. So that's right where we are in this interview. And if you've never heard of the TV show, that's why. It only aired 4 episodes.
She also mentions towards the end of the interview, Matt, her work in the movie The House of Yes.
Well, she talks about 4 different movies because she was very prolific at this time. She was working a lot. And these were all movies that came out in 1996. In addition to Waiting for Guffman, she talks about The Day Trippers, Suburbia, The House of Yes, and Clock Watchers. And then my old boss, Laura Gross, asks her what life was like in the soaps. And what she's talking about is the show As the World Turns, which Parker Posey had acted on in 1991 and 1992.
Wow, pretty cool. Yeah. I forgot about The House of Yes because I actually did that junket. And I remember at The House of Yes realizing, wow, Tori Spelling, she's some freaking actress. I remember her having a really good performance, I believe, in The House of Yes. That's a movie that I would definitely love to revisit again. And Freddie Prinze Jr.
It's a shame that video doesn't exist, so you'll never get to see it again. Sorry about that, Greg.
And by the way, do you know who directed The House of Yes?
Mark Waters?
Very, very good. Very good. Mark Waters, who had a pretty good, solid filmmaking career.
Yeah, I think she refers to him as a first-time director, right?
Yeah.
Because that was his first film, but after that, Mean Girls was him,
Yeah,
right?
Freaky Friday, Just Like Heaven.
Spiderwick Chronicles, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Bad Santa 2.
Bad Santa 2, which was horrible, but it was watchable. No, it wasn't horrible. It was watchable. It was watchable.
He's not a first-time director anymore. It's kind of funny to think of him that way, but in 1996 he was.
Yeah. So, anyways, anything else regarding Parker Posey?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, yeah. Also, last thing is there's some really interesting stuff. Parker Posey talks about living in Austin and compared to living in New York. So there's some really cool things. And she also adds about her thoughts about the lack of female roles in cinema. That's also interesting stuff to pick up on with this interview with Parker Posey.
Here we go.
Hello. Is this where I sit? Yes, I've never done this, so...
North Way is about that as well.
Wow.
That's what they all say. Yeah, winging it. Can I pin you, please?
Yeah.
I hope you've been pinned before.
Al, you're hurting me.
May I do the same?
You're scaring me. So where's all this going? My God.
Direct link to the president.
Straight to the White House.
Actually, we're all nationally syndicated, so it's all over the country.
Wow.
Excuse me again. Thank you very much. You and I spoke at the Chateau Marmont once.
Really?
In the lobby of the Chateau Marmont. I think you were speaking. I think you were just parked in the lobby and you were talking to journalist after journalist after journalist.
Really?
For Party Girl.
Oh my, see, I don't even remember. I'm addicted to that stuff.
So am I. I think it's the alcohol content.
Good. I'm not gonna. Can I smoke in here?
Sure. Not really.
You have to.
It is
I'm one of
hard
those.
on the equipment. Really? Well, it is truly. It's hard on the equipment. Oh, really?
I'm serious.
Yeah.
So how did you
I
find
say
out?
smoke them if you got it.
No, we'll wait till you put out. No, we'll wait till you finish with the first.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of Party Girl, what do you think about the fact it's been spun off into a TV series?
Oh, I think it's great.
Have you seen the series?
No, I haven't. But, you know, I mean, I wish there were newer ideas going around instead of trying to rehash everything from sitcoms from the 70s into movies to low-budget films and into television. It's just like, get a new idea, you know?
This is kind of a new idea.
What?
Film is a new idea. You don't
Guffman?
do one of these every day.
Yeah, true.
Can you tell us about how you found out and how you got involved?
Well, I just met Chris Guest, and I did an audition for it. You know, it's like an unscripted movie. So, I was in Coneheads. I was like a glorified extra in Coneheads. I auditioned for Connie, but I didn't get it. So I was like, what about Connie having a friend? Because I was broke and I wanted some money and I was in Los Angeles. So Lord Michaels was like, yeah, okay, sure. So I was like in the background of Coneheads for a couple of scenes. And 2 years later, I think Karen Murphy and Chris, they called Saturday Night Live and said, you know, we're looking for someone who's funny, could play young and sing and dance. Do you know anyone from New York who can do it? So they said me. So I think he met 2 actors and I went in. I'm from Mississippi, so it wasn't like a major stretch for me. I mean, I knew then. I know Libby May. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't a big stretch for me. It was something I grew up with.
This movie gives hope to anybody who works for Dairy Queen. Witness that.
Oh, of course.
Well, just
Dairy
fleeting
Queen, honey.
hope, actually.
Dairy Queen. Yeah, I wonder about Dairy Queen. It's not very healthy. I mean, in the Midwest, yeah, they love, my mother we'd drive around the South and look at houses when she was like having a sugar fit, and we'd, around her time of month, and she'd go, let's go get a derby. And we'd go and get a derby and look at houses, like every Sunday, one Sunday a month. So that was I know Dairy Queen life. I appreciate the Dairy Queen.
Was this all? Could you just move on just a little bit? Can you move just a little bit? Thanks.
Because you got the back of my nose.
Yeah.
Was this all on the page, or were you given license for the interview segments? I mean, did you get to?
Honey, it was terrifying. I mean, I go to set the first day. I got in a couple days before and unpacked. I'm not SCTV or Groundlings or, I studied. They didn't find me on the street. I've done like a lot of movies and went to college, and I did stuff in college. But the first day you go to set, and I saw my Dairy Queen outfit and I put it on. And I sat on the, some kind of air conditioner unit in the back of the Dairy Queen, and Chris said, okay, we talked about your character, and I'd made notes and stuff, and just talk.
So you're
Okay. So I talked about the Dairy Queen. Yeah, and I had no idea it was funny until then Chris came up and said, that's really, talk about I like the part about the lake. Now, of course, all of this isn't in the movie, because the movie could be, a full day. It could be. I would love to see the 3.5-hour version of this, actually. The documentary, the real documentary of it, because I love documentaries. But yeah, I was terrified. At the end of the day, my back was so sore from trying to hold in laughter, because you had to be really serious or you just start laughing, because Chris is just a genius. He's like a comedic channeler. You know what I mean? He's like spooky, scary, as are like everyone in the cast, I think. So you really had to take it seriously. But I went home, cried in the bathtub, and went, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I funny? Is it, And then like a week later, it was fine. And
do you have to approach this? I mean, even though it's a comedy, do you have to approach, because the trick in this kind of thing is playing it completely straight. Do you have to create a backstory for Libby May? Do you have to know where she,
yeah,
what she's going through at that very moment, and what she did 2 years ago and all that?
Yeah, it was so much fun. Now, I do remember you from the chateau.
The really stupid questions.
Yeah, you were the, and I like that pen. No, now I do. I totally got it. Well, yeah, that's really fun, because the more you think about it, if you think about a character, and especially one that you don't know what you're going to say, you have, it's unlimited of what you can do and who she can be. And you're like, who did I name my aunt on set? And, the continuity person would be like, this is what you said, and this was your family today. Here's the paper. And if you ever mention them again, this is what their names are. So the backstories were really fun. You'd make up some of it on the spot, and I thought, I wrote on my little computer things, and got a picture of her. And you realize when you think about things, you just kind of store it in the back of your head, and subconsciously, and it just lives there, and it comes out when it comes out, and other people bring it out, and it was really, really special. I mean, I will never do anything like this again. I mean, I don't think movies like this are made very often.
What did they tell you about her, and what did you create about her?
Everything I did. Libby May is from Alabama. Her father was thrown into jail for a bomb or something. She's worked at the Dairy Queen, and that was it. And there's a lot of things. Like, I think Libby May really doing it, since the way it's cut, I think she's really serious. I think she could really kick ass. Do you know what I mean? I think she could get in a fight with somebody, and this play is like really good for her. You know, she's tougher, I think, in how I thought of her. But maybe, I don't know. She's been through a lot. I think she's kind of tragic.
You know, you
Where
said
did this pet come from?
Doris Day.
No, but I mean, was that you, or did
Oh,
Christopher
yeah,
say
yeah.
do it? Or?
He said, what song do you want to do? And I was thinking of, like, Journey. I thought that'd be like, when the lights go down, you know, and just, like, really singing, like, a really bad Journey song, or Air Supply, or Melissa Manchester. But then I love Doris Day, and I think she's just brilliant in her own right. I love Doris Day movies, and I think Corky also loves, you know, Doris Day, and had turned me on to Doris. And so that was part of the reason why I chose it as well. I think, you know, Chris, that if we could do a bunch of stuff, he would have had us, like, watching, you know, old movies together at his house, and, you know, we had a very special relationship, Corky and me, as he has with everyone in Blaine.
You said
There's something in your bio I've never seen before. You reveal your age.
What do you mean you've never seen that? That's in every article.
No, not really.
Oh, you mean?
But an actor.
Oh, please, yeah.
In a press bio.
Uh-huh.
Which tells me you're really open about if age doesn't bother you, and you need that kind of openness for something like that. Are you in real life very naturally open?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like privacy is not a major concern of yours.
With certain privacy, yeah. I mean, if being really public was something I really wanted to do, I could be on television now. Do you know what I mean? I could do bad movies. Do you know? I mean, I'd love to do a Hollywood movie, and but I'm not really concerned with. I think I have a great career. Do you know what I mean? And I think I'm completely happy with what I have. But, I don't know why actors, well, yeah, I do know why actors are scared to mention their name, blah, blah, blah. I'm boring everyone.
It narrows the a lot of times.
But particularly women. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
for women.
Yeah. Why? I mean, you can get surgery and look great. Do you know, when you're 40-something? Why should it matter? When by the time I get 50, I could have anything done to me. I won't even look like myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I won't have, like, major surgery, but I'll have a pull. You know?
You said that this movie was very special, and movies like this don't come along very often. You've built a whole career doing exactly those kind of movies. I mean, that whole independent, you're the queen of the independent films right now, you know. Is that handle getting tougher to handle? Are you finding that people
It's
aren't...
so difficult.
No, please. No, but I mean, are you finding that they're not offering you the big Hollywood movies because she's the queen of the independent movies?
I don't think so. I mean, I just don't think there are parts out there for women, period. I mean, you're the girlfriend of a guy who's trying to kill the president, or you're the girlfriend of the lawyer, or you're the prostitute who wants to kill you, or, you know, it's not really, I don't think people see me as that, and I don't want to do that anyway, so the parts that are out there, it's, and Sandra Bullock, who's, like, great, Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, I do think it's opening up a bit for women, you know, young women, parts that are better. But see, those movies don't make money, so it's really kind of hard. It's just high action, special effects, movies that, you know, in IMAX, and then there's good movies with stories that are low budget. And that's it. There's really no in between anymore.
Is this how you feel, which made you do your own first screenplay?
This what?
Is this what made you...
Yeah. I wrote something 3 years ago. I hate it now, but now, yeah, I got a little option on it. It might be getting made, but I think it's kind of dated, and yeah, you know, it's like if you're going to complain and say that things are bad, then if you read enough scripts to kind of get the hang of story and dialogue, write something.
Can you tell us about what you've written?
Oh, it's like, I don't think movies, I talk about this a lot, I don't think movies in the past 15 years, people have really talked. You know, it's all like one-liners and action and people running from each other and to each other, and action-based, and no one really feels anything. No one really gets upset. No one really, pulls their hair out. Everyone is trying to look so cool and macho. If it's a woman, she's trying to look tough. You know what I mean? And man, he's trying to look macho, and everyone's trying to look really, really cool. And I don't like that. I'd like to be, crazy. I think my friends are nuts, and they get really passionate and angry about things and lose control, and that's what I kind of like. That's kind of melodrama. Douglas Sirk, and to an extent Doris Day, and people who went through things, went through love, went through jealousy, and didn't kill anyone. So, or do drugs. I'm so sick of drugs in movies. I could die, especially heroin. It's just, but anyway. So yeah, it's 3-character love triangle, 2 women, and it's pretty conventional, but not.
Why is it dated? You said you think it's dated. Because that certainly isn't dated. I love it.
I think generation. It's kind of Generation X-y. I don't think it's really new. I think it's kind of been done. So that's why.
You want to be a director, possibly?
One day, yeah. Of course. Why not? I've been on enough sets. I've done like 20 movies.
And you got about 4 ready to...
Yeah, something like that.
Day tripper?
Mm-hmm. Which is good. Have you seen it?
No, not yet.
It's really good.
Where do you fit in that?
It's Hope Davis plays my sister Eliza, and Mira plays my mother. We live in Long Island. We go into New York for the day over Thanksgiving weekend. My sister's found a love poem underneath her husband's dresser, and she doesn't know who it's from. Someone named Sandy, and so they go into the city and try to find this Sandy person, and her husband's not answering the phone, and it's about family, like dysfunctional, controlling mother, a boyfriend who's like kissing up to my mom. Eliza's kind of let herself be controlled her whole life by her mom, and it's really, really funny. And it just won DeVille. It won the Audience Award and the best film at the festival, whatever that award's called.
Suburbia?
In Suburbia, which is a lot of fun with Rick Linklater directing, and he's just wonderful. That was a lot of fun.
What's your character in that?
Erica, publicist.
A publicist?
Mm-hmm. PR, music, yeah. That was
hang
fun.
around those people at all to get a feel?
I didn't have to. It's a hard job.
But somebody has to do
But
it.
someone's got to do it.
Fashioned after any particular publicist we might know?
No. Not at all. Not at all.
That's the House of No, but what about the House of Yes?
Oh, God. House of Yes is going to be amazing. It's really great. I think it's going to be really good.
Now, what is House of Yes?
This, I just finished it in July, I think. It's a play. First-time director Mark Waters. I have a twin brother named Marty, and I've called myself Jackie O since I was like 7 years old. Jackie O is out of the mental institution, and she's not taking her pills, and it's Thanksgiving weekend. She has shot her brother once before because she's in love with him, and they've played a game called, they've played a game their whole life, which is based on the assassination of Kennedy. And it's pretty dark and it's pretty funny. Geneviève Bujold plays my mother, and she's just fantastic. Tori Spelling, my nemesis, and Tori's genius in it, and she's gonna get she's really, really funny. And Freddie Prinze Jr., who you're gonna be seeing a lot of. He's so gorgeous. He looks like a young Keanu Reeves, and he's hilarious and very, very, very talented.
As opposed to old Keanu Reeves?
I was gonna say, Keanu's 31 or 30 or something, and
Chubby.
Freddie's like 18 or 19.
Chubby old Keanu.
Oh, Keanu, we love Keanu.
And then you've got Clock Watchers. Can you tell us about that?
Clock Watchers is, about 4 temps, working in office, haven't been promoted to secretaries. My character Margaret has really paid her dues, and they don't really treat secretaries like they treat temps. When temps kind of don't matter. They don't remember their names, and there's theft going on in the office, and they start to suspect the 4 temps. They put us together. They pull the partitions away and treat us like criminals. It's really good. Toni Collette is in it, and Lisa Kudrow, who's just genius. That girl is funny, man. She's going to be hosting Saturday Night Live in October. I tell everyone that. And Alanna Ubach, first-time director Jill Sprecher, writer. Her and her sister wrote it. They've had experience with temping. I think it's really good. It's a dark 9 to 5, I guess, if you want a little catchphrase.
I'm still one movie back. Who plays your twin brother?
Josh Hamilton.
What was life like in the suburbs?
Hard.
Why?
Because it's just the pressure. I've never had pressure like that, besides college. College was pressure, too. And I'm feeling it in my nose. Oh, my God. It's coming back. That headache. That familiar headache. Everyone was really, really sweet, supportive. And, you say these lines that just make no sense. You have to make them make sense. You go, well, I could say it and say it badly, but my mom and dad are watching. So is my hometown, and maybe someone I know is going to watch this. You want to make it good, you want to make it real, and it was really hard with the dialogue, but it's a style. It is a style. I think those girls on Melrose Place are excellent actors. The women are just really, really good on that show. The men not as good as the women.
She's looking at me. I wasn't in it.
Yes, you were, and I saw you.
And I was terrible.
It was all your fault.
You and the acting talents of Ducks and Lot can possibly compare.
Did you get to die or be in a coma?
No, but I faked a pregnancy, and I left town, and I did get a little psychotic towards the end, which was fun. Tess, my character, is in Los Angeles right now, trying to make it as an actor.
So there's a chance Tess might be out?
Sure. Hey, if I'm desperate, they were so great. They're like, if you ever need to come back, just give us a call.
But you asked to go?
No.
You asked to be written out? Or?
No, I had a 1.5-year contract. And then I went to Austin to shoot Dazed and Confused, and I came back, and they wanted to get Holden out of his coma before Labor Day. So they asked me if I wouldn't mind leaving a little early. And I did. I was, thank you. I was really glad to leave. Because I went back to Austin and did more scenes in Dazed and Confused.
So many soap stars that I talk to seem to fall into that real comfortable rut, it's a gig, it's a steady gig that's, unless you piss somebody off, you've got forever, So did you find yourself maybe falling into that in any way?
Not at all, I'd never seen a paycheck, that big, and I was making scale. But I got to buy a TV, I got to buy a couch. Do you know what I mean? I was out of college, and I don't like any, that's what's good about these low-budget movies. They're over in 24 days. You go in and you just pound it, and then it's done, and you're exhausted. I would get really bored over doing something. I don't care how much you pay me. It would bore me. I think I'd drive myself insane unless it's really, really, really good and interesting.
How many
What would you
films?
like to do? What would be really, really good and interesting?
I think a really great television show. I think a really good, something where the format changes. I think the format of storytelling needs to change again. With television, the way the jokes are, I think it's gotten really jokey and really hypnotic. With film, I think it's, one-liner. It's like, you watch the Susan Hayward movies or, Richard Widmark. That is, and they all kind of talk like that. Where in 20 years from now, they're going to say, oh, look at that funny, campy movie from the 90s where they're all like walking in and wearing white and killing each other and talking that certain way that's just a little funny, a little campy, so I think the format, like Rick Linklater, what he did with Dazed and Confused and Before Sunrise, and get people back to like normal people. There's enough reality on television right now. I think people are ready to see some reality in movies.
If I were going to go down to the video store and pick up, because I've never seen one of your films, pick up one of your movies, which one should I get?
Oh, I don't know.
Gotta be one you're the happiest with, or one that, it's the first one that comes to your mind.
Well, I'd say like Party Girl, because I'm in it. I was the lead in it. I love Amateur, Hal Hartley's movie Amateur. I have a scene in. I love that. I like Dazed and Confused. Those movies.
Anybody else from Dazed and Confused coming back to suburbia?
Yeah, Nicky Katt, who was the bully who beat up Adam Goldberg, and Vonnie Ribisi, Marissa Ribisi's twin brother. Marissa Ribisi with the curly red hair and Dazed and Confused. Her twin brother's the star of it, and that's it. That's the little connection.
How many movies have you done in Austin now?
3.
3? Yeah. And where are you from?
I live in New York now. I've been there for like 10 years, I guess. I'm from Louisiana and Mississippi, Monroe, Louisiana, Laurel, Mississippi.
Do you like working in Austin?
Yeah.
Music scene there and all that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they think I'm from there. They're like, Parker Posey's in town, on the radio. I was on the radio. Oh my God. Because Dazed and Confused is like their hometown. Rick is like their boy.
Being from Mississippi and Louisiana, did New York seem like a foreign country when you first came?
Oh, New York seemed great. I always wanted to live in the city. I was always like speed racer, you know what I mean? Just growing up, wanting things to be faster, bigger, more exciting.
So it didn't seem like...
Oh, I loved it. I love it there. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't live there.
So when you go back to Louisiana and Mississippi, does that seem like a foreign country then?
Yeah, it always seemed like a foreign country. Seems like a time warp. It seems like, I'm serious. It's like crazy down there.
Tell us why.
It's just, it's just crazy. We have 41 Baptist churches in my hometown.
And how many people?
19,000.
Not sure if they're 19.
Church on every corner.
Church on every block.
What have you got?
I'm finishing, I have one more day on Chris Guest's new film, Edwards and Hunt, next couple weeks, and that's it.
Now, what's that?
Edwards and Hunt, it's great. It's Chris Farley and Matthew Perry follow Lewis and Clark to discover America. And Eugene Levy's in it, and Louis Arquette's also in it from Guffman. And it's the funniest script I've ever read.
Where do you fit into this?
I play Matthew Perry's fiance, but they make fun of everyone in that script. I mean, it's kind of Monty Python in a way. We haven't had that in 20 years. It's time for that political satire stuff.
Is it tough
really
after
good.
Guffman working for Guest and not thinking of Corky Sinclair?
Oh yeah, well it's hard to. I miss Corky. you know? Like, you look at Chrissy, where's Corky? Where's Corky? Because we all fell in love with Corky. Everyone's gonna fall in love with Corky. I know Corky. I've seen Corky at restaurants. That same hair and everything. And a friend of mine saw a screening of it a couple of weeks ago and said, I saw Corky in Los Angeles. And I'm like, I know, I've seen Corky too. It's amazing. That does the same wig. It's like...
I see Corky just about every trip to New York, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's a Corky in every community theater.
Right?
In one of my university theater groups, there's a Corky. It's kind of scary.
Bless him.
Thanks, bro.
Are you guys leaving now?
No, you are. You're leaving. We're going to go have a meeting with Corky.
Corky. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, folks, we are back from the Parker Posey interview. Matt, you have some really interesting things to say about Posey?
Well, I can't promise that they're interesting, but I do have things to say.
Things, all right.
So she said that this was a special experience, and she predicted that she would probably never do anything like that again. Well, good news. She became part of Christopher Guest's ensemble, so she did get to do it again on Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, For Your Consideration, and Mascots. She joked about all of the plastic surgery that she could have when she turned 50. It's kind of funny hearing that now in 2018, the year that she turns 50.
Wow. That would be a good question to ask. Maybe not in the opener if we ever get her again.
Well, she doesn't need it. She looks great.
Yeah,
but
she does.
I bet she would get a kick out of hearing that her 28-year-old self said that. So if anyone out there knows her, send her the link to this episode. I'm sure she'd enjoy it. She said that she had written a screenplay that she didn't expect was going to get made, and she was right. The only writing credit listed on her IMDb page is a 2004 video short called The Sisters of Mercy. She also said that she wants to direct someday. She hasn't. And
this is a big downer, Matt.
I'm sorry.
But she's had a varied career, a varied acting career.
No, Greg, it gets worse before it gets better.
No.
She said that she was going back to do more shooting days on a Christopher Guest film starring Chris Farley and Matthew Perry called Edwards and Hunt. There is no movie with that name, but it wasn't too hard to track down. She was obviously talking about Almost Heroes, but what's confusing is she's not in that movie. Her role as Matthew Perry's fiancée got cut in the final edit.
Which is tragic. Well, not tragic, which is kind of funny because she said it's the funniest script she had read at that time.
Well, fortunately, Christopher Guest made it up to her by casting her in everything else he ever made. Finally, my last note here with Parker Posey. What is with the Journey hate? If you remember, she sang a little bit of the song Lights, and then she called it an example of a really bad Journey song, and then she compared the band to Air Supply. Excuse me?
First of all, when you compare a band to Air Supply, that's not an insult. I love Air Supply.
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm going to let you finish, but Journey is one of the best 80s bands of all time.
They are. I still love Air Supply too. But we could look rainbows, Matt. Rainbows. So
all right.
I'm sorry, I'm making love out of nothing at all. So
you're just making nothing at all, Greg. As usual.
Okay, as usual. Oh, folks, it's coming undone. But here's the thing. Next up is Catherine O'Hara.
Correct.
She's an SCTV veteran. I've never seen SCTV. Never seen the show. Did you ever check it out at all? Like, who was on?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bigger in Canada than it was in
Rick
America.
Moranis was on it, wasn't
Right.
it? And then John Candy.
Yep.
And
Dave Thomas.
Yeah,
Eugene Levy.
Yeah, huge, right? Fred Willard wasn't on it, right?
I don't think so.
No, he wasn't on it.
Andrea Martin.
Andrea Martin, yeah. So Catherine O'Hara, she got her start with the Canadian television sketch comedy SCTV, which debuted in 1976. She's known for that in Canada and for comic enthusiasts. But obviously, her early known roles was for 1988's Beetlejuice.
Right.
Which is stood the test of time. Along with Beetlejuice, also standing the test of time is the Home Alone movies.
Yep.
As Macaulay Culkin's mom.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, there's a lot of Home Alone stuff in this interview.
Well, obviously, she was asked about it because she played his mother. The interview was in 1996, and I did have to look up what was going on specifically in that year because I didn't really know what it was exactly that they were asking her about. So in 1996, Macaulay Culkin's parents were divorcing and there was a vicious custody battle going on. And so all this ugly stuff was coming out in the press about how abusive Macaulay's father had been. And so really, who better to talk about this than the woman who fake left him by himself to battle burglars twice?
Very cool.
I mean, there is no other expert, right?
No other expert.
So in this interview, she also talks about the 1996 film The Last of the High Kings with Jared Leto and Christina Ricci.
Yes.
And she talks about her time in Second City. Greg, you had mentioned SCTV. Prior to the TV show, it was a comedy troupe that Catherine O'Hara was in. She started in Toronto. There's a Toronto and a Chicago branch. She was in the Toronto branch. She started in 1974. Catherine O'Hara was originally the understudy for Gilda Radner, but then when Gilda became a cast member for Saturday Night Live, then Catherine moved up. If you've never heard of Second City, a lot of iconic comics came from that club, including Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Eugene Levy, Fred Willard, Mike Myers, Martin Short, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Jane Lynch, Steve Carell, and Stephen Colbert. And it's still around today in Toronto and Chicago, and it's a great training ground for young comics. So if you're ever in Toronto or Chicago, go check it out. And I think that's all I've got in prep for Catherine O'Hara.
That's all I've got too. Here is Catherine O'Hara, a.k.a. Macaulay Culkin's mom.
Not in real life.
Not in real life. Here we go.
Oh, you've changed your hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
I thought
You believe I stuck with it that long?
Yeah.
So
That was wrong.
I'm so sad. They cut the moment though in a song in the show, the Covered Wagon song in the show, where I take my hat off and my hair came right up like that. We'd had it all sprayed dead down to come up.
Whose idea was the hair?
Mine, I believe. But the hairdresser made it happen. She knew. It frightened her to do it.
I mean, that's not easy either, to make it stand up.
Well, my hair's pretty light, so it's pretty, it was scary, I know. Every day would be like, oh, while we were doing it, oh!
We heard you got to really create a lot of characters, I mean, because this was greatly ad-libbed. Can you talk
Oh,
about
it's completely improvised, yeah.
how you saw this woman and how you decided to create her?
No decisions beforehand at all. Just got there, and our first scene was just a rehearsal scene. It was supposed to be later on in the rehearsals, I think. Yeah, it wasn't the first rehearsal. So we had this rehearsal scene, and that's all it said in script, rehearsal scene. And we just did it. And the fact that Fred and I were sort of thrown together and hadn't improvised together before that, forced us to be greatly affected by whatever each other came up with. And I don't know if he'd thought of this beforehand or what, but he plays amazingly, which you don't see a lot of in the movie, of course, because there's 60 hours improvised in, 84 minutes movie. But he did some great, really frightening, scary actor stuff. I mean, playing the scary actor who was so arrogant, so unaware of his lack of talent, and so unbelievably cocky about it, and overpowering, and would take Corky aside and say, maybe I should work with the actors at night because I've got it down, and you've got a lot on your hands, so why don't I take care of it? Just so great. And Eugene kept having, on our first day, we were in a library, and it's not even in the movie, and Eugene had to keep going around the corner behind the bookshelves and just laugh and then come back out. It was just a wide shot of us improvising. So it's just like watching each other saying, oh, okay, they're going that way. Okay, I'll go with that, So my instincts, the last time I improvised at Second City Theater, and my instincts were usually just to mouth off and be, just too strong and talk too much, and it was great to be kind of forced into this sad, beaten wife kind of thing by Fred, because he was so strong.
Do you find after years of doing improv, I mean, it's always been my take that when you do improv with someone for a long time,
yeah,
you can kind of figure out what's real and what's not. I mean, do you have moments where you go, that's not acting?
Yeah, all of us in this. We all kind of, it's kind of sad. You think, how much of me is really in this? And how little talent do I really have? It was all, you start sort of treating each other in a certain way, and I think it's probably all to help you get the job done, because it's one thing to improvise on stage and it be gone and then you move on to something else, but to do a movie where and to shoot, out of continuity and to try to have some sense of what you were improvising before that came up out of nowhere. It's not like you planned it and you had any, So you just you're trying to keep all these things in your head and try to present a real character. So I guess we kind of did that for each other, you kind of treat each other like you are those characters.
Do you know Sheila?
It's a pretty sad lot.
Do you know Sheila? Is she based on somebody you might know?
I think there are just a million of those, aren't there? Well, how many? I mean, there must be like 95% of the people that try to get into show business, don't get in. There's just so many people who want to act and want to, show what they can do and show, like Dr. Pearl talks about how funny they are with their friends, in their homes. Because most people are pretty funny with their friends, so why not think that you could do that in front of strangers? And, so it's kind of sad, actually. Somebody said it was mean. I don't think we're making fun of. I think we tried to get in, we felt it ourselves, and well, it's a sad fact of life. I think these people exist.
It was your idea that they had never traveled?
Yeah, I think Fred or I. That's what they say. I can't, at this point, I mean, so many people are just like flying together, so you can't tell. Sometimes you'll hold on and you go, I thought of that. But most of the time, people really don't know where it came from because, one little thing someone says makes you think of something else, which makes somebody else think of something else. So who really thought of it? That first person had, a glimpse of that idea, and somebody else actually put it into words. So it's like you're all part of it.
How many takes did you take of each scene?
Oh, I don't.
Was it 2 or 3?
Actually, yeah, that was the scary part of improvising a movie is that you do several takes. It's not, and then you wonder, should I repeat that thing? Because that seemed kind of funny. And what if they didn't, they said there was a problem with sound, so that might not be used. So maybe I'm not really repeating it, because if it actually wasn't, if it didn't work, then it won't get processed, that film. So I should do it again. And, I should go with that bit. That worked, No, I should let go and just go completely fresh, and they'll cut it together. But they had to, because things were shot wide so much of the time, to be able to, because Chris wanted to catch whatever might happen, then there was no really way to cut in to catch. So I have to talk to Chris. It was a completely different process of directing and shooting a movie.
Don't you feel very vulnerable?
I didn't answer the question, did I? I don't know where I went with that. Sorry.
Don't you feel very vulnerable, though, when you're making this type of film, when you have to do so much improvisation? It seems like you would be.
Yeah, vulnerable, but no, so encouraging. I think because of the way Chris directed it. He really never forced anything on us. He just really let each person do whatever came naturally to them in that moment. And I mean, just so encouraging to each person without even making a thing out of it. Just, I mean, I directed a show at Second City Second City Theater, where people improvise and build on, until they eventually have scripts. So they keep kind of reworking and working these scenes. And I was like, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? You could say, yeah, just mouth it off, like, shut up, let them do it. And I couldn't believe Chris's restraint. He just never did that. There was maybe 2 things in the movie would say, we're doing a Chinese restaurant scene, and this is terrible because I don't even know the proper name. She's wearing Eugene's wife was wearing the symbol. It has a line. What's it called? Hi, thank you. And he said, why don't you ask her why she's wearing Stonehenge? Which is not in the movie. Then later I thought, that's a reference to Spinal Tap. That's probably the only reason he even suggested it. But it was really funny. But then he didn't use it for whatever, his own reasons. But he just never did that. He just let everyone flow complete. So, yes, vulnerable, but at the same time, so self-indulgent and so fun, and just felt like we were, although I don't know who's going to care really, but we felt like we were doing the most important thing in the moment, You just get into it. It's just such great fun.
How easy was it to judge how good you were being bad?
I think I was the baddest. The baddest of the bad. I think the other actors tried to show, for future work that they could really act or they could really sing a bit, and I showed absolutely no potential, I think.
You said that
and actually there is potential there. I want you to know I squelched it.
But I mean, again, that's a vulnerability that people
are going to
look at that and go, I'm not hiring them because they can't act.
Or how about the way I look? Thank you. An agent at the agency I've had called me a few weeks ago and said he'd seen a screen. It was so funny. He said, and Tony, your agent's going to love it. No, she's not. She's going to see this and say, how am I going to get her work? She looks like this. Oh, yeah, you go out on a limb.
So what did your agent say?
I know, I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. She hasn't seen it. I don't think. Oh, she'll be frightened. What does it matter? It's okay.
But being funny.
I had the other movie coming out, so.
You were talking about that 95 million people, 95% of people who try to go into show business.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, that statistic comes from nowhere.
But that,
I'm improvising here.
I also think that so many women are much more than people trying to go into showbiz are just completely dominated by their husbands, even though he's, he doesn't beat her. He's not like a typical abusive husband, but the woman doesn't have a chance to say a word. Can you talk about that and about the drinking and how you guys came up with that?
Well, I think it might have been Fred's idea. He wanted to have a date where we all went out together. Maybe it was Eugene's, and that wasn't in the script. And they just said, "Okay, let's go." And Eugene said, or Chris said, "Yeah, okay, we got a location in a Chinese restaurant, so we'll go there." And yeah, as we were doing scene to scene, I was getting this feeling of who I was becoming beside Fred and who Fred was becoming, and so. And actually, we had another rehearsal scene at the house where I was drinking a lot during it, but that's gone. So we just have the scene out of nowhere where I'm drunk. But I think I love it because it reveals this just sad home life between these two, or at least sad home life in her own head, maybe, because he doesn't seem to actually be bothered by anything. Old Ron. Yeah, I don't know, they're a good pair. I guess this guy may have married another woman who would have overpowered him, and he would have, ended up in a hole somewhere. But, he married the perfect person. Just encourage him and think he's a genius. And there are a lot of couples like that, where the wife laughs at everything the husband says. And, I mean, it works vice versa, too. I'm sure there are husbands who are devoted to their wives, too. But in this case, it's the other way around. And he, probably criticizes everything she does and tells her how to do everything. But she's so convinced that he's right. But there's probably some part of her that is not convinced about that and thinks he's evil. So she drinks instead of facing it. Oh, yes. See how serious this movie really is?
What is
I like the food reduction, too. That one is good.
Or vagina enlargement. I thought, what husband isn't going to try to get the wife to do something about it first before he does? His answer would have been... So sad.
What? Sometimes there's too much information.
Well, that's what that scene was about. Way more than you want to hear. I'm sorry.
Okay, here's a serious question. Having played Macaulay Culkin's mother twice now, what is your take on the whole Culkin family crisis?
I just got asked this in the other. No, it's scary. No, I can see why you'd ask it, but because I am his mother.
Yes. The whole latest business up to where the court now has ordered them to cut their monthly expenses in half because they're going bankrupt, and he's trying to get the court to release a $17 million trust so he can pay off his parents' debts, and that's where we stand right now.
Oh, just God bless them. It's all too sad. And he didn't ask to be the movie star he's become. I hope, people will give him a private time. Because he really, he didn't enjoy it. For the second movie, he wasn't enjoying it, and I don't know. Really, how can I comment on that? Unless I'm insane. I am. No, sorry?
Would you call this a lesson for kids who want to get into movie? More specifically, parents?
Well, there are other kids that have completely different lives going on inside their work and outside their work, and I personally wouldn't want my child to get into it. Maybe isn't it Peter Weir that directed that remake of Lord of the Flies? Is it Peter Weir? Yeah, and he said he thought child actors should act once, do one movie maybe, and then decide later in life whether, and which is maybe twice. I don't know, and maybe some kids can handle it. Really. Boy, I don't know. I can't say anything without saying something here.
Just before we get off this, they tell us that if we're ever aware of a child abuse situation, we're supposed to notify a school or an authority figure or something, so something can be looked into.
Yeah.
After the second time we interviewed Macaulay, I walked away thinking, this is tantamount to child abuse. This kid doesn't seem like he's been to school. He's so inarticulate. For his age, I just thought it was horrible. But I didn't do anything about it. But what do you do?
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I mean, doesn't that ever cross anybody's mind at the studios, don't they?
I don't know.
I just think that
Although I have read all their minds, I can't answer that. No, I really, I didn't see anything firsthand that looked like abuse. You know, we've all heard the same stories, but I didn't see anything firsthand. You know, I asked him what he liked about making movies, and he said nothing. You know, so that's all I know firsthand, is that he didn't look happy. But what do I know, really? I mean, I don't.
But you just think that from the studio
Sad.
business sense that they would want to protect their investment, if you like.
Yeah,
Knowing
I
how
guess,
they are
yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
They haven't even done that.
Well,
We're putting you on the
give
spot.
the boy a break, I say. Give the boy a break. Let him get a chance to have some real life, if that's even possible for him.
As we've
You
been
know,
taking the high
at this
road
point.
here. How about the High Kings?
Yes, lots of the high kings. Yes.
What's that and where are you?
That's a movie I made in Ireland. It's based on an Irish novel, and it's mainly a coming-of-age story for a young boy who's getting out of high school, and he's going to get his marks at the end of the summer, and he's sure he's failed, and he's just fantasizing about how he's going to go to America.
This is Gabriel's movie, right?
Yeah, yeah. Gabriel plays the father.
And Jared.
And Jared Leto, yeah, is the son, and I play the wife and mother. And the father, so it's his summer before he's sure he's going to get results that tell him his life is over, and he's just fantasizing and, you know, going wild for the summer. And he's at home with his 4 or 5 sisters and brothers and his mother, who makes his life hell while his father's away in New York acting. The mother used to be an actor too, so she's quite frustrated and quite mad. And it was really, really great, challenging, fun role. And
What's our prediction for Jared?
for Jared,
Yeah, this is his first movie.
let's talk Macaulay again. No, I'm kidding. No, like what? No, I wasn't comparing them. I'm saying like I'm going to speak about him either. I was like
Okay.
no, he's not a child actor. That's not the same thing. No, I mean don't make me comment on anybody. He's wonderful.
I mean, that's what I mean.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. The movie, sure.
Here's going to be another Leonardo
Ironic
DiCaprio.
humor here. These Americans, they don't understand that.
These Americans. Aww. You should welcome them in your city.
That's what we tell them.
Yes.
You get the chance to play mother.
No, he's great. He's great in the movie.
My here is another Leonardo DiCaprio, that's all.
Sorry. Okay.
You get a chance to play mothers, you get a chance to play wives. What kind of roles do you really like to go for? I'm not talking about the ones that pay the bills. I'm talking about the roles that
Yeah.
you want to play.
Anything, it'd be nice to have something sexy and on the edge and, you know, different. Just anything I haven't done, which is a lot of things. There's a world out there. Yeah, just some, you know, especially after playing a mother and then getting offered all kinds of mother roles, you think, wait, okay, I can play a mother for the rest of my life. God spares me, so please let me try something different while I can. Oh, so, I don't know.
But don't you ever
It's something different, on the edge, you know.
But one mother, the mother in Home Alone is a little, talking about abuse of the child. She's
I
just
know.
a little neglectful.
Oh, I had a child come up to me in a mall once and say, you left your child home not once but twice. Why did you do that? And I said, I'm sorry, I know. They offered a lot of money. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please. I know it's just a movie. Look, they just wanted to get the kid with the burglars again. The parents had to leave for that. Okay, I know from my point of view it was an awful thing to do, and I was embarrassed. I'm sorry. You know. He said, wouldn't that be considered abandonment? And he was about 6 years old. I was like, yes, I know. I'm sorry.
Which shows that kids don't know the difference.
They do. What do you mean they don't?
Well, I mean,
Oh, between a movie, yeah. But he knows the difference between a good parent and a bad.
oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
That thing.
If we go back to Second City for now, yes, the right people were there, but what do you think it was? Was it something to do with the city, with the times, or all down to the times of the people?
Yeah, I always say Canada's a great straight man for comedy, for anybody who wants to do comedy. And I don't know if it's the times, because I think now, you know, there's still people in, you know, their 20s especially, coming up with great, wild, new, funny stuff. So I don't think there's any end to that. You know, that I would hope will keep going forever. I don't know. I think it's just
I mean, at the time it came along.
yeah, the time. Well, it was. No, you'd think of the 70s. There wouldn't, because it was kind of the time it came along really was 50s, right? In Chicago, yeah. For me, it was more 70s. Yeah, I think maybe at the beginning of 50s and 60s, it was a great time to rebel, and it was a great time to be doing satire, I guess, and so it was perfect timing for that. And why it's kept going times-wise, I don't know, because there's always something to rebel against and always something to make fun of, and at that age in your early 20s, it's a great time to, you're cocky and you can make, you can do anything better than the rest of the world and everyone older than you. So it's a great place to vent all that in a funny way. I don't know. It's a very encouraging place to work, and people really, are encouraged to think on their feet, to write. I mean, actually, it teaches you. It's good for life. It's, improvising. Not that I'm not doing all the talking right now, but in normal conversations, it teaches you how to give and flow and listen and, include somebody in the table, or just, it's actually, I don't know, it's just a great place to work, and it's very encouraging, and that's why I think so many talented people were able to find and express their talent working there.
Does it spoil you when you get a script because you have to stay with the script?
Yeah, well, I first got out of Second City, it was hard, yeah. Everything I read, I was like, I wouldn't say this. It had to come from my head, and if it didn't, it doesn't make sense. And then you have to actually learn how to act other people's words, and that's a whole great new challenge, So now, no, I don't have the same feeling. I like to be able to play with things a bit if something doesn't feel right, but most good directors will let you do that.
Does it seem,
Chris Columbus was great for that.
Does it seem as wonderful in retrospect as the way it's revered by people when you think about it? Being in Second City.
Oh, it was it was a great time of my life personally. Yeah, and I worked with great people who, are still my friends, and yeah. So just as a life experience, it was lovely. It's easy to romanticize. Yeah, looking back on it. Yeah.
Do you ever accidentally surf by one of the shows when it's...
Oh, yeah. Especially in Toronto. You can't put that thing to sleep. It's on, I think it's on the Comedy Channel or something, too.
So is that a curse or a blessing?
No, it's fun. It's fun. It's a diary for me.
That everybody gets to read?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a diary, too, because I know what was going on that day sometimes. And, the funny stuff that was going on. The sad stuff.
Do you ever see someone go, I don't remember that at all?
Oh, I do, yes. Yes, honestly I do, and that's scary. Not to remember. But no, it's fun. Actually, Andrew Alexander, the producer, gave us all a library of all the tapes from Second City, so and there are a lot I haven't seen from after I left and they did the Cinemax series, because I didn't get Cinemax on my TV. So it's great to watch those for the first time. Yeah. Oh yeah, something new, huh? Pardon?
See the nightclub singer spun off. Remember the one, the body one?
Oh yeah. Dusty Town.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the real woman now? Dusty. Rusty Warren. Rusty Warren. Yeah, and then there was another one. Sylvia Town. Has anyone ever heard of her? She was Canadian, and she said, Isn't that cute? Isn't that true? After the filthiest jokes. Isn't that cute? Isn't that true?
Knockers up.
Knockers up, yeah. And bounce your boobies. Yeah. And I used all my dad's jokes in that. My dad's jokes from The Office. Like, Virginia. Oh, I once knew a girl named Virginia. We called her Virgin for short, but not for long. And Dick Withers, how could you, Mrs. Dick? And all these stupid... Almost every joke I told as that character from my dad's office.
Did he want 10%?
So he had fun at his job, too.
Yeah. 10% for writing material.
That's right. More than that. How about for life? For giving me life.
What do you... Obviously, if you have to write something down, but what do you consider yourself now? Do you consider yourself as a comedic actress or as a comedian, or...
I guess an actor. I don't know. Comedic actor's fine. I should be so lucky.
Mm-hmm. I just wondered if there was, an action girl in there wanting to get out at all.
Action?
Yeah.
Might be fun to try, I guess, but...
You like the lightest?
I don't know. Who is an action girl right now?
Sandra Bullock. You could be Sandra
Action
Bullock's
girl?
mother in Speed.
I think she's always on the side of the action. sort of action reactor
Linda
girl.
Hamilton.
Yeah. Oh, I did audition for an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie once, and the feedback I got was, he said, "You're not buffed." You know.
He said you were buffed?
I was not buffed enough.
Arnold?
Yeah.
He said that?
That's what I heard. I don't know if he did. That's what I heard.
And your reaction to that would be Buffett?
Yeah. It's true. You lying bastard. Look at me.
So now, did you go to that audition because it was another job, or did you go to it because
I don't know.
It might have been an Arnold movie?
For the experience, just to see. You can always audition and decide later. Just to go see, yeah. Actually, I met James Cameron. He was interesting. No, he's cool. He was nice to meet.
There are some actors who will go to any audition just because they love auditioning, they love the process.
Or you just need to learn it, you know? Just in case something comes up that you'd actually really, really want to do and you'll have to audition, you might as well get the experience. Yeah, for a long time I didn't do that. I'd read something up, no, I don't want to be any part of this, so I won't go near it. No, I wouldn't want to waste their time. Why would I go to... And I honestly thought that too. It wasn't just me. I was thinking, well, it's not fair to go waste their time because they're looking for somebody, and if I'm not really interested, I shouldn't go. And I generally actually still feel that way. But then once in a while, if you haven't auditioned for a while or met anyone for a while, I think, oh, I better just... And you also never know. I've had the experience where you go and you talk to the director and they talk about what they want to do and you think, oh, wow, I was looking at this the wrong way. Now I see how it could be. You know, it's...
Did you ever...
You have to open, you know... So you can, it's advantageous for sure to go and meet somebody and find out what they're thinking.
Aside from Guffman, what do you think? What are you the most happy with that you've done on screen? Whether the movie was good or not.
I don't know about Guffman. Or I don't know, compared. It's hard in that movie because we improvised so much. I'm really happy with what we did, but it's hard to watch the movie knowing. I wish I knew nothing of what else was shot, you know, to be able to watch it and just enjoy it purely. It's really, you know, in most movies you've got some stuff cut, but in this, you know, you really had to let go of 95% again, my favorite number, you know, what you did. So that was, but it was really fun, yeah. I hope that Last of the High Kings is great. It was a great role. I don't know how. I know that actually the most dramatic aspect of my character, that whole storyline is gone, so it may come off more comedy than it originally was, but...
But I mean something I could run down at the video store.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Beetlejuice thing. Yeah. Yeah, I love Beetlejuice. That was a great experience and really fun, and I thought it was a really good movie. And, yeah, and I met my husband on it.
Did you ever end up in a movie that you'd gone along to the audition for going... I'll just go do the audition because...
Well, Beetlejuice, they asked me so many times to come and meet Tim Burton. I was like, I read it, and I really read it, not to be unfair to Ned Beatty, but for some reason I pictured Ned Beatty playing Beetlejuice, and I thought, oh, this guy's just an old lecher. Not that he is, but I pictured I don't know why. It's got nothing to do with Ned Beatty, but I pictured a guy like that playing this part, and he's after this little 13-year-old girl. This is sick, and just not getting it, you know, and looking at it way too, linear way, and then I went through like some kind of mental breakdown. I was lying in my house in Toronto. I'm not working. I'm not doing anything. What am I doing? And then they'd called me like 3 months before about this movie, and I'm like crying myself to sleep. What am I going to do with my life? And in the morning, my agent called and said, you know, this Tim Burton guy really wants to meet you. Now they're offering it. Before he'd wanted to meet me and audition me, and now they're offering it. They really want you to do this. And I thought, this is a sign from God that I should get out of the house, take a job, and meet some people. So, and I had no idea, or I had the wrong idea of what it was going to be. You know,
and
of course, it was his vision and my husband's, being the production designer.
Well, and in looking back at it, when you take everything, it got you work and it got you a husband, and maybe it was a sign.
I know. It did. My life completely changed after that. So, oh yeah, I'm being taken care of. And also, it was Michael Keaton, not Ned Beatty.
I was going to say.
Although Ned Beatty, I'm sure, would have been great in it.
The old lecher?
He must have done something at the time that frightened me. Some movie. I don't know, some role he played.
Like a Pig comes to mind. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's... He wasn't the lecher in that case, though, poor boy.
He was asking for it, don't tell me.
Yeah, he was, wasn't
It's
he?
a hard movie to get on paper even after it's done when you're reading, you know.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so,
Yeah.
so much of it's visual and, you know.
Oh, yeah. But I also really didn't picture Michael Keaton, and he was, so funny, I thought. And sexy. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. You were very funny.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
And in the movie. Thanks very much. Okay.
Okay, we're back from the Catherine O'Hara
We are.
interview.
Hey, look, it's us.
Hello. Hello. You have some stuff regarding
Well,
Catherine.
I thought it was pretty fun to hear her talk about how she deliberately sang badly and she didn't worry about it. If anyone wants to hear her singing well, 2 Christopher Guest films later, check out the Mickey and Maude songs in A Mighty Wind, where she's fantastic. In fact, if I can digress a little bit, A Mighty Wind toured with a live show when that movie came out, and the whole cast did it. I saw them live at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles. My seats were front row center, and I had so much fun. But the Mickey and Maude set was amazing because she and Eugene Levy didn't go for laughs. They treated it as an emotional sequel to the film, and they really played the turmoil and the awkwardness that those characters would be feeling if they had to share a stage again for a tour after they'd shared that kiss at the end of the movie. They were both so good and so moving. I really wish that concert had been filmed for DVD. I would love to see it again.
Oh man, that is a huge. That sucks that wasn't taped or anything like that.
No, it doesn't exist anywhere. And believe me, I've looked, and the whole cast was there, everybody, including Fred Willard and Bob Balaban, who served as the hosts because in that movie they weren't in any of the bands.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and just all these new jokes. I mean, it was like watching a sequel. But getting back to Guffman in this junket interview, I thought it was really interesting to hear that Catherine O'Hara had auditioned for Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Cameron, and that Arnold said that she wasn't buff enough for the role.
Yeah, that's cool.
She didn't say what that part was, but it isn't too hard to narrow it down because the two of them only made 3 movies together and 2 of them were Terminators. So that leaves only 2 possible roles that she could have been auditioning for. It was either the Jamie Lee Curtis part in True Lies or Sarah Connor. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Catherine O'Hara as Sarah Connor. I mean, it's hard to picture anyone but Linda Hamilton in that role, but Catherine O'Hara is a great actress. I mean, if she had buffed herself up, I bet she would have knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing stuff.
So now we move on to Bob Balaban. And Greg, why don't you tell us about him?
Well, I mean, Bob Balaban, is there a lot to say about Balaban? There's a lot. This interview spans a lot of his career. You were telling me about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was a part of the ensemble for that Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah, Spielberg. His name is Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg film. And then also he talks about, in this interview, working with Mike Nichols in Catch-22. There's some really, really great stuff with this.
Oh, my God. If you've never seen Catch-22, let me just tell you who's in that movie, okay? Alan Arkin, Richard Benjamin, Art Garfunkel, Buck Henry, Paula Prentice, Bob Newhart, Anthony Perkins, Martin Sheen, John Voight, Jack Gilford, Charles Grodin, Norman Fell, and Orson Welles.
That's amazing.
Can you imagine being on that set?
And listeners, cinephiles everywhere, my favorite part of this interview with Bob Balaban has him specifically talking to that ensemble cast from Catch-22, because by the shooting of the movie, he was still a green actor, a novice actor, and it was thanks to Jack Gilford, his friendship with Jack Gilford, that he was able to survive that amazing, that star-studded shoot. Very, very, and Bob Balaban obviously is a great storyteller. That's one of the things that you realize from listening to this interview.
Well, he's also a writer. He co-wrote Gosford Park for Robert Altman.
Oh, cool.
He and Julian Temple, I believe, wrote that script.
Sweet. So, anything else regarding Bob Balaban?
Yeah, well, he also talks about working on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as you mentioned earlier. He worked very closely with legendary French director Francois Truffaut. They acted together for 8 months on Close Encounters, and Truffaut played a French scientist, and Balaban was his translator, and so you're going to hear some stories about that.
I had no idea Balaban even wrote a book about Close Encounters, which I don't know if it's easy, if you can get that on Amazon these days, but his anecdotal accounts of making that movie is pretty cool.
Yep. He's also going to talk a little bit about The Late Shift, which was a TV movie in 1996 based on the book, about the rivalry between David Letterman and Jay Leno over who was going to take over The Tonight Show. Balaban played NBC head Warren Littlefield, and interestingly, in that movie, David Letterman was played by John Michael Higgins, who would later join the Christopher Guest ensemble, starting with Best in Show.
That is so fun. Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
And that's all I've got too. Here is Bob Balaban for Waiting for Guffman.
Yep.
Hello, good morning. I'm Bob.
Hello.
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 Hello. Good morning.
Yes.
Bob Hewitt. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This is my brother. Yes. Good to see you. Look at all these exciting microphones. Hello.
All right.
Hello. Hello. Should I sit here? Do I need to wear anything?
Clothes you have on?
Yes.
Fine.
All right. Thank you.
We'll go with Mike first. I'll just.
Where are you guys from?
Los Angeles.
It's New York. New York.
I'm from Toronto.
Toronto. Okay.
Los Angeles.
That's right.
We're all.
But you know each other.
Syndicated, though, you know.
Regrettably.
Incredibly important.
Well, I better say better things in this room then.
Oh no. That's okay.
Look, we have on the same shirt almost.
See, taste.
Well, we're off to a big start now.
Last I saw you was around Christmas, walking down Broadway on 72nd and hit your grapes.
Yeah, did we say hello?
Yeah.
How are you?
I don't know who I was, but
Hello.
anyhow.
Yeah.
Yes. You're very well plugged into that whole Broadway, off-Broadway.
Well, I worked a lot. You know, I've been in New York since college, and I began doing, you know, like plays and movies and stuff when I was in college. And so, you know, you meet a lot of people, and you end up, if you survive.
It's like you're constantly working on one side of the stage or the other.
Well, I try to go back and forth. I haven't done a play in a fairly long time because now that I'm trying to produce and direct more, I mean, you can do a movie for a couple of weeks, but, you know, a play is your life for 6 months or a year or something like that. And I do miss when I'm in it. Just for me, it's kind of therapeutic to force yourself to do that incredibly frightening thing that then becomes easy and fun after you've done it for a while. But I find it, I kind of distracts me too much. So I'm avoiding that part for a while. But I do other things.
Before going into this movie, you took on the role in Late Shift.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether you called up Warren or anyone or thought about your career.
You must have been talking to the other room right now.
No?
Yes. No, I've known Warren Littlefield, the head of NBC, for about 15 years. We did a pilot together. My wife, who was a writer, and I used to write television pilots. So we had done a pilot with Warren when he was a producer in New York, and always liked him and thought he was an interesting guy. And we're kind of friends with him over the years. So I did call him and I said, you know, if this bothers you in any way, and you don't need to see me playing you in this thing. And he said, no, it's fine, you know. He thought the book was fairly accurate, and I do think that you know, there's no hatchet job on anybody, I don't think in particular, and he didn't mind it, but I wouldn't have done it, you know, if he said he would have.
So what made you do this role?
Oh, I don't know. Chris, hello. I was in a movie with Chris Guest 1,000 years ago called Girlfriends. In which he was one of the girlfriend's boyfriend, and I was the other girlfriend's boyfriend. He was Melanie Mayron's boyfriend, and I was Anita Skinner's boyfriend. They were the two women in the movie. So we kind of met and liked each other and have always dimly known each other. And he asked me, actually I got a call from my agent and it said, do you know how to play the piano? Because there's this interesting movie for Castle Rock that Chris Guest is directing, but you'd have to play the piano. And I said, yes, I can play the Soffiagetto and I can play Chopin's Military Polonaise, and I'm musical and I was in choral groups and I sing, but if I really had to play the piano in a movie, just like I learned how to speak French for Close Encounters, I learned how to tap dance for a Broadway musical in 3.5 days. We're actors, you know, we can lose weight and gain weight and learn stuff, but you can't treat me like I'm really a musician, right? So I have to have my music a month or two in advance, and then I could memorize it and work on it, and I'll show up and you'll think I'm a musician. Well, anyway, it worked out, and Chris said, you know, he would like me to do it, and I thought it was a great idea, the idea that we would do an improvised movie, really improvised, not just, here's the script now, change the words a little bit, but, you know, come to us with your character, call me with your ideas, you know, be who you want to be, and we'll do this great thing, which turned out to be a fantastic experience, one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had, you know.
But on the other hand, that can be like the scariest thing. When
Yes.
reality sets in, it's like, we have to finish shooting by this day.
Oh, well, there was never a question of that. No, it was well organized. I mean, that's the thing that, you know, it's the zen of the thing, right? It's got real parameters, you know. You know what you're doing that day, and you have from 9 in the morning till 5 at night to do the scene where you have the first rehearsal, the scene where Corky doesn't come, the scene where you have the auditions. But you don't know anything more than that. But you know that it'll end at 5 o'clock, and we're all, we all we weren't being destructive. We didn't think, oh, I'll just get drunk and mumble for 10 hours and ho-ho. Like we wanted it to be good. So all that freedom also came with, understanding of what limits were, and we were all kind of from the same, in a funny way, background. I mean, I don't know if Chris even knew this, but I had been at the Second City when I was in high school. I studied with Viola Spoline's Teenage Workshop. So, I mean, they were really with us, SCTV. But, it's my favorite thing. I would so much rather you say to me, don't do any of this stuff. Let's just do a scene right now where X, Y, and Z is happening. That I can do. I mean, that's not acting. That's just, doing something or other. But I mean, I like that. So once I found out when we got there that we really were doing it that way, it didn't bother me that they had never sent me the music and I couldn't play the piano and I didn't know what was going on and I had never conducted before and I had not practiced. That was okay because, I see it gives me, and I think most people, great authority in a funny sort of way when you come to believe that whatever you do that comes out of you in this modality is going to be okay. And Chris just exudes that feeling, when you're working with him of, trust and he's very inspiring. I mean, he is an amazing, aside from everything else, I mean, his ability to be this character and 17 other characters is staggering. It is like an invader from Mars has taken over his body. There's just no question about it. He doesn't plan it. He allows it to happen, which is what all great things are, I guess.
As you've got to come up with somebody for this role, are there going to be people out there who are going to recognize themselves?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Did you pick someone
to start
off with?
No. I've just had a lot of experience, though, in music, in high school things. I was always in the play. I was in every form of choral group that you could imagine. I was in the little a cappella group. I was in Christmas things, singing every form. I'm Jewish, of extreme religious Christian music that there could possibly be, because I just liked that and we did it. I was in choirs on Sunday morning. I used to get paid to go to sing introits and graduals in these places. Most people don't even know what that is, and I don't, but I know it's called an introit and a gradual. So I guess I came across a lot of this stuff in my time, and I was very serious about it, as these people are who are attempting to have their entire life satisfied by a pathetic experience somewhere. I don't really mean that, but you know what I mean.
Tell us about Lloyd Miller.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Was that the character? Is that his name?
Yes, that is his name. Who is? Like how you see him and how much of.
I see him as about 6 feet tall and making a lot of money and being very successful and happy.
Like the idea of him wanting to control the play versus. Corky, did
yes.
the two of you come up with that together? What parts were you, what parts were...
No. What was up was, I knew that he was coming in and kind of taking over, and I knew that this was what I had been doing for several years. Other than that, we didn't know what it was. I wish you could see the movie that you didn't see, all the 8 million other things. I don't really wish that, because you probably would be bored. But if you were really interested to study about the backgrounds of these people, you could see and learn more about my relationship with Corky, and also, Catherine's relationship with Fred, and everybody's relationship with everybody else. It could fill 25,000 textbooks, and it's really interesting. We used to go to dailies every day. I never go to dailies. I think it's boring and stupid. I used to go to dailies every day and watch 7 hours of people doing stuff that we wouldn't go home at night. I mean, to me, I finally had an experience where I don't care if they never release this movie. I do. It would be nice, but it's only a disappointment for me that it's over and that it's edited and that it's finished. It was just this really exciting experience to be part of it, to be doing it, and then to watch what everybody was doing and get to see all the footage. I mean, there's stuff in there, and it's fantastic. I think the movie is wonderful, and you can't have a 7-hour movie, although I wish it was a 7-hour movie.
Well, what scene would you like to really see in the movie?
Of mine? Do you mean my, me type of thing? Many different things. I thought that there was some stuff when Chris went home with Matt Kiesler to tell his father, Brian Doyle Murray, and is Frances Fisher in this movie anymore?
What character was she?
She had a really good part too. I think she was Brian's wife, as I remember it.
Frances Fisher?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Ooh, never mind. Shh. No, never mind. Shh. She's not here. Was she here today? Did you see her at the junket? She must not be in the movie. Through no fault of her own. I mean, she was fantastic. To see her be this funny, because I'm used to her being kind of like dramatic and stuff, and she was so funny. But this stuff where Chris is convincing Brian Doyle Murray that he should let his son be in show business, and it was like days of talking and stuff that they did. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Corky telling jokes about when he was in the Army with the guys and they used to play tug the sausage under the sheet. I mean, whatever it was that he was doing. And Brian Doyle Murray is it's just amazingly strange and funny. And you can't have all that stuff in the movie because it would be too long. My character had about 40,000 encounters with Chris. Three of my favorite ones. One of my favorite ones was when Chris came to me in my house and he said, "You must write a new song for the show tomorrow." Oh, great, okay. And I had no idea what he was going to say. And I'm at my piano ready to kind of work out a little tune or something. And I said, "What's the song?" And he takes out a piece of red fabric and he said, "This is the song." And it's supposed to kind of move like the fabric and kind of feel like the fabric. And that was it, And I'm supposed to write a song tomorrow, based on the red fabric. This went on for 3 hours of us. I thought it was, just blissfully funny, but a lot of the stuff only plays when you see the whole thing. You can't come into three little pieces of sound bites of that stuff. You actually had to watch it for about an hour to understand what was happening. So that's obviously can't be it. But it does inform the rest of the movie, I think. Evidently, our relationship grew out of doing all that kind of work together, and then it's not in the movie that much, but enough of it is, I guess, so that it's got roots, somewhere. I'm also a beekeeper. What?
What was that game you said that they played in the Army? I missed that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, it was Pigs in a blanket or something. I don't know.
But my character's a beekeeper, for instance, which I found very important to things. All it said was he's a beekeeper, and then we had an interview at my hive one day, and I had produced and directed a movie called The Last Good Time with Armin Mueller-Stahl, Olivia Dabo, Maureen Stapleton, and Lionel Standards. His last movie, and Sam Goldwyn released it. So in preparation for the New York grand opening, I had organized an entire junket myself, basically, and flew people in, and I had a fake opening, and I had, I did all this stuff. But we were shooting, waiting for Guffman. So I said, "Chris, I feel really badly. I can't be there for the big scene of our first rehearsal or whatever it was supposed to be. But I think with the way the planes are and the fact that it's getting earlier as I go west, I can show up around 1 o'clock. Can I come into the middle of the scene? I'll have a really good reason why I'm late." He said, "Okay." So I, did my thing, and I rushed in, and they were shooting, and I came over, and I had my reason for why I was late, and it was really fun to know that it was like this dream that I used to have when I was about 8, that I was in a war movie, and nobody had told me what the movie was. I was just in a war movie, and anything that you made up was fine, and they could even have special effects and it would work out. This was like that dream that I had, because I came in, and I had had problems in my hive the night before, and I had actually stepped on a bee, and the queen was dead now, This was a tragedy in my hive, and all the bees are going everywhere and hysterical until the new queen gets elected. It's really a big deal. Well, they don't get elected, but, chosen. And
Cokie would appreciate that.
And I had hurt my foot badly, in this experience, and I limped severely. There are still 2 scenes in the movie where I'm limping. You wouldn't know that, but why am I limping right now? Because I stepped on the bee in my hive. But those scenes aren't there. So I do have a couple of times when I'm kind of limping. So.
Because of your relationship.
What would and wouldn't go in, so you wouldn't know what would.
Yeah.
That must have been hard for to think about what's going to follow through and what is.
Well, since it was outlined and you knew the big beats of things, and we did it in sequence. Even though, yes, it could happen that you would remove something. Obviously, you can't have the scene where I come in and I've stepped on a bee if you didn't see the scene where I was at my hive. And there wasn't enough room and time for all those things. So you could take it all out. You just, the logic of it is you couldn't have some of these things without their follow-ups and lead-ins and stuff.
Because of your relationship with Corky in the movie, killing the queen may have had Freudian implications.
Yes. I'm telling you, the whole thing is totally Freudian. Right? I mean, when you do this stuff, that's what it is,
Do you find yourself learning things about yourself when you're doing that many hours of improv at a time?
It's amazing how bored you can get with yourself sometimes, And yes, it does. Yeah, sure. You do. It just things come out. I mean, we weren't having psychodrama, but I imagine, because this was supposed to be a comedy. That's the other thing that I find interesting about groups of actors, you know, and the group dynamic and everything. If you know, you don't have to talk about it. We weren't supposed to be funny, exactly, but you know that the movie is a comedy because it's Chris, and you knew what the idea was, and it all sort of tickled us a lot. And so we all cooperated. You know, our psyches, you know, brought us into the areas that, you know, were better for those kinds of things. You're not going to sit there in your interview and tell a tragic story about the death of somebody if it's serious. You know, you just don't want to do that. But I imagine if you did a completely improvised movie, as Cassavetes would do sometimes in more serious domain, yeah, I'm sure it was revealing and painful. And of course, that's all very therapeutic for actors. I don't think it's painful at all. I think it's great. I used to love to go to acting class and be upset.
One of the pinnacles for being an actor, especially a New York actor, is appearing in the Woody Allen picture.
Yes.
Which I hear you're about to do. Is there anything you can discuss about it?
Nope. No, but I have been in 3 of them before, but I only ended up in 1 of them.
Which one?
I'm in Alice. I fall in love with Mia Farrow at some party and I'm drinking eggnog.
What were the 2 that you were left?
I loved being in Crimes and Misdemeanors. I had a wonderful, sweet part, and it was fun, and we had a great time, but my subplot couldn't remain in the movie for good reasons. And there was one other, I don't remember its name, that I was in for a while.
Frances Fisher was in that one, though.
Yeah. She and I went together, yeah.
When it says here Fall 96, I presume that's just the working title.
Starts on Monday, and they always call them that, yeah. Fall. But they're always fall. He doesn't do spring because he's not, I don't know. I think he always does fall.
Now is that going to be an easy thing? We're told that you'll get your pages probably, and nobody else's. I mean, is that an easy thing for you to do?
Mm-hmm. It's okay. I mean, I'm sure if there were anything confusing, I would try to find out about it. But I think it's a good idea. I was actually, the first movie that I directed was this horror black comedy called Parents that we did in Toronto with Mary Beth Hurt, Randy Quaid, and Sandy Dennis. And they actually liked it in Toronto, although they didn't like it anywhere else too much. But some people liked it. Anyway, I had to go to a great amount of work that we all did to try to make the actors forget that it was a horror film, because I wanted it to be a sort of funny little urban thing that happened to be a horror film, but that you didn't know it was a horror film until you found out what was happening. So I had to keep removing knowledge from the actors all the time, which is hard. You know, once they read the whole thing and they know what it's all about, and they kind of, we all do, you know, we're little computers here, and we come up with our version, involuntarily or not, of how to play these things. And I had to do, you know, it worked out fine. I thought the actors were really good in the movie. That was the good part of it, I thought. But I had to do a lot of removing knowledge from them. And when I did my little scene in Alice, and I drank eggnog and didn't know that it was spiked with stuff that was going to make me fall in love with Mia Farrow, I probably was easier to play the scene not knowing that and just do the scene, you know, without... you know, tone it down, you know, don't pretend you're being magicized now, you know, whatever it would be. I thought it was fine.
Is he as wonderful to work with as everyone else?
I thought so.
Why? What makes him so?
No, I mean, I just think he's... I mean, there aren't many filmmakers who have careers where you get to every fall make a movie. I mean, it leads to certain ways of making movies whereby this is just the thing you do with your life. It's not 3.5 years have gone by and now you have your $12 billion movie and it's got to be the best, whatever. It's a work in progress, you know, when you're doing, it's a life in progress, I think. And I find that an enjoyable thing. Truffaut did that. I mean, I loved his work, and I loved him and how he was and what he did. And I mean, most people can't organize it because it is, after all, $1 million event, no matter how cheaply you do it or how efficiently you do it. But, you know, how amazing to be able to know that you have a fall project coming out, that you're starting, so that when your fall 95 project is released, you're thinking about something else already. You're free to, if you want to do variations of the same movie for a while, and then suddenly do something, God knows where it comes from, and I can't, you know, and I admire him a lot. So, you know, I think it's a great way to work, and I like being around that kind of work.
Did you get to a bond with Truffaut at all?
We had a great time. I mean, I don't know, you know, what he would say about our bond or anything, but I bonded. You know, I thought he was fantastic.
What your impressions were of the man? Or?
Yes. I also wrote a book about the movie called The Close Encounters Diary, which is out of print, but I think being re-released in honor of the 20th anniversary of the movie that's going to be in a year and a half, in which I chronicled my relationship with some of these people, but in an anecdotal way, obviously. I didn't reveal any deep, dark secrets about anybody. And yeah, Truffaut was great for me to work with. I mean, you know, an honor just to be around and to hear him talk. And I spoke French and nobody else did, and he hated speaking English. So I got to, you know, for 14 hours a day, we stood there looking up at nothing in the sky and talking about everything in the world that you can think of. It was just great fun, and my French improved also as a little adjunct there. And it was great. I thought he was wonderful. And we
Did you
got
know
to be
during
friends.
the filming of that
No.
movie what you were making?
No. No, we liked Steven, and I knew he had done successful movies before, but we had no sense of what it was. I don't know what others would say. Maybe they would say they did have a sense of it. But I was shocked. And Francois and I thought a fair amount of the things we were doing were silly. You know, like we wouldn't tell anybody. But, you know, there was a scene in the movie in India, and Steven Spielberg talked about, like when it was all over, we talked about this, and he went, oh, that's what was going on. Well, we would drive up to somewhere, and Truffaut and I would get out of the car, and he'd be smiling a little bit, and then we'd rush up to the mountain or something. And take after take, Steven said, there was this little mysterious smile on his face, and it was really interesting. And then Steven, after the movie, I said, what were you guys talking about in the car? And I said, well, we were experimenting to see if you could tell jokes, like if I could convert English jokes into French and they'd still be funny, you know. That's what we were doing, and Steven thought we were doing like something that had to do with the movie. And actually, we thought a lot of the movie was funny, because there were lots of times in the movie where we were involved with a lot of nameless extras going, like that. There were all these scenes that, but they cut a lot of that from the movie, of course, but there were a lot of times when Francois and I had to like pretend to be excited and like clap, and we thought that was like hysterically funny, and you know, we thought it was kind of silly because it was so slow and you so lost sight of, we didn't have the vision that Steven had, we didn't know. We were in a movie that had a 25-minute sequence with 3 lines of dialogue in it. Do you know what that's like for 4.5 months to be down there in in Mobile at that point, in an airplane hangar that was 110 degrees with all these extras running around? The first week of being there, we did all of our positions on the floor with the camera in one position. Then we redid it with the camera in another position. Then we redid it. Then the third week, I thought we'd go out of our minds, except we had a great time telling stories.
When did you get an idea that something was happening with that movie? Because being an actor, you were probably off doing something else. So
No, it was when I saw the movie. We all went to the premiere. And the New York people were at the New York premiere, and Terry and Melinda and I was there, and Francois, I guess, had seen the movie in LA at some press junket thing. And I loved the movie, you know, and it was this spiritual experience without trying to be. I mean, that's why to me it was spiritual, because, you know, it was just this thing that came purely from Steven's heart and got translated into the movie against all odds, against the big budget, against the nightmare of what the studio was always trying. You know, they're always, you know, they wanted Steven to film Devil's Tower in the back lot. That was supposed to be like they were going to build a little mound of a mountain somewhere in the back of whatever studio it was at Columbia, I guess. And he knew he just, had this amazing vision. So I don't think we really did too much. I know Dreyfuss said that when he finally saw what the special effects were that were matted in, he said, oh, if only I had known. But the truth is, I think it blends in perfectly. I don't think there's any problem. I know, and Steven would, when the mothership first appears and Melinda Dillon is like looking over the hill, and I thought she was like great, but the ship, even on TV, is so big, and it's like beyond the scope of what you would ever imagine, especially us actors, was happening. And Steven talked her through it. He would just say, I think she was talking about her father, actually, or something at the time. He had some kind of little dialogue going with her about stuff, and it ended up being perfect, So it didn't matter that we didn't know. But I didn't know. I don't think we did.
Jumping forward to this film,
yeah.
Has being on this changed your thought process as to how you will direct?
Interesting. I always liked when people improvised in movies, and I did an improvised series, which was an interesting experiment for Fox. We did 7 episodes and they never showed it. And I did learn a big lesson then, which was reinforced by this, which is you can't have half-assed improvising. You can't tell people what to do and then say, now improvise. You kind of have to have all or nothing, because improvising is about an actor being a machine, really, and then knowing circumstances and then allowing it to happen. It is confusing intellectually, I suppose, but it's like painting. It's like anything else. A great painter doesn't, I don't know, do you ever paint or draw or anything? You when you're bad in the beginning and you kind of like put everything down with hard lines and you plan everything, and as you loosen up and you start to study, I took an art course once, and at some point, after a couple of hours of moving your hand around, it draws. It just does. And you go, oh, look, that's a face. You know, I didn't know how that was going to emerge. I'll turn that into the thing. There's a kind of creative energy or force, something that kind of does take over if you allow it to happen. What was the question?
Do you have any memories of any specific memories of making Catch-22? You know, for its time, that was.
I remember everything. It's, you know, like.
That was kind of the water world of its time, as far as publicity and press.
The water world of its time. Oh, I never thought of it that way. Yes, and then it still made its money back.
As did Waterworld.
Yeah.
But
well, the big problem I thought with Catch-22 was that MASH was coming out. And it beat it, and it did the war funny and quirky, and Catch-22 was a much more formal movie. You know, and there was MASH being funny and silly and irreverent, and somehow getting there first, I thought, was its problem.
But the actual shooting.
Oh, I remember. What do you want to know?
I just want to know if it was as chaotic and
I don't think it was chaotic, because I think Mike, you know, planned well and he knew what he was doing, but it was huge and very ambitious. And I think still a lot of the filmmaking is absolutely beautiful and special and unusual, and he invented a lot of stuff, you know, very neat. I've tried to steal a few little things from it in my directing life, if I could do that. The things I remember especially about Catch-22 that you would call chaotic, but I would call, you know, having the authority and the creative energy to be willing to do difficult things, maybe. We shot for 2 or 3 weeks all these scenes with thousands of extras who were imported from God knows where, because it was Mexico and we couldn't have Mexican extras. We had to have people who looked like American GIs in 1943. So we had all these extras running around, and I did 1 or 2 scenes, one in the mess hall. Big thing. And they built this thing. It was amazing to see in the middle of this shrimp village. Suddenly there's this landing strip and all these buildings and houses and shit. I mean, now it would be a $20 million set probably, but it really was impressive and very interesting. And we did this thing, and we're in the mess hall, and there may be 200, 300 people milling around and eating, and we're having this scene. And 3 weeks goes by, and then Mike realized that, I guess it dawned on him, that he said, this is a dream, this movie. This is all Yossarian's point of view as he retells the story, as he's moaning and dying in the airplane. And in dreams, you only remember the high points of certain things. So we then reshot the first 2 or 3 weeks without extras. Only as was necessary. If somebody's serving you food, then they're there. But you don't, we had a lot of empty tables, you know, basically, and nobody was running around. It was very empty and deserted some of the time. I think that's interesting, but that would probably lead people to say it was chaotic. We, David Watkin, who I love and I think is really an interesting cinematographer, and especially then had just done The Charge of the Light Brigade, and is a very ambitious man, only wanted to shoot from 4 to 6, right? There we are in Mexico for 12,000 years, and we're all having nervous breakdowns at how bored we are in our hotel, and they're only shooting from 4 to 6. Right? Well, that lasted for a while, but not too long, because, well, the light was, you know, Days of Heaven, right? We loved that movie, mostly because it was orange, you know, it's very hard to have orange, you know, and it lasted for an hour and a half, and it was gorgeous, you know, but they couldn't do that, so that was for a while. Then somebody was playing a part and got fired in rehearsal, and then they began shooting with somebody else in the movie playing his part, and then that went on for a couple of weeks, and then he was good, but he wasn't cutting it exactly, so then he went back to playing his part, and then they hired somebody else, so that was kind of, you know, we had things like that. But it was all, as far as I could see, good-natured, and I've done a movie with a director who was like kind of having a nervous breakdown, and the writer who was supposed to be on the set, and they were killing each other. And I mean, I've done that kind of painful thing, and this wasn't in any way like that to me. I'm sure for Mike it had its, you know, it's hard to make movies like that. I don't know how you live through them, but for the actors it was pleasant and funny. It was always great to work with, and it just seemed like a big hard movie. And you want those things, especially if it's like your first movie, and you're this kid in Mexico with all these incredibly famous and interesting people. I was overwhelmed during this movie. You know, Jack Gilford came there for his part one day, and Jack, he could see that we were in misery, all of us actually, but he could see I was even more miserable because I was like the lowest person on the totem pole, because at least everybody had done something. I was just this young person who was there being really weird. And Jack came up to me and he said, we're going to have dinner together every night, Bob. I said, really, Mr. Guilford? He said, no, don't call me Mr. Guilford. You know, like, I'm Jack, and I'm going to take care of you, and you'll take care of me, and we'll never have to worry about anybody asking us to sit at their table or not for dinner. Because every night there we were with this pecking order of people in the same restaurant. There was nowhere to go, and it was beautiful. There was Bougainvillea, but my God, it was a hateful experience, you know, to live there. And it was especially hateful because you'd come down for dinner, and nobody could commit to having you at their table, because what if somebody more famous came along? Or what if Mike came by that day? They didn't want to have you taking up that seat. And they were nice. I'm not saying they were horrible about it, but it was really made me very unhappy. And Jack and I instantly this bonded. And you know, I was 21, and I was friends with him until he died. You know, from that. And we had a great time.
What a sweet thing to do. That's.
Oh my God! And then somebody else famous. Oh, God, I forget who it was telling me some great story about how when he worked, Jack, like, essentially he was a fantastic human being.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Not because he took me to dinner, but he really was.
I just remember all the press and all the articles about that. I mean, I was fascinated by the movie when it was being made, and then I loved it when it came out.
I think Dick Benjamin is actually in the Woody Allen movie.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. But it's funny, you know, you meet these people, and and you have it too, because you always run into the same cast of characters. But from that movie, I'm still Nora Ephron and Dan Greenberg. Well, she was the only journalist that was allowed on the set, so I met her, and she lives in my building now. I got her in my apartment. And I see all of these people all the time, and I still see Buck Henry like every week or something. So it's amazing.
It is amazing. Wow.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that was Bob Balaban, who played Lloyd Miller in Waiting for Guffman. You know, it's really fun to hear these actors talk about scenes that aren't in the movie. I do want to point out that the DVD for this film contains 14 deleted scenes, so it is possible to see some of them. And by the way, Balaban talked about Frances Fisher, who was cut out of the film. She's actually there in the DVD's deleted scenes, so you can see some of her work.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
The only postscript I have for this is he was getting ready to work on a Woody Allen movie, but he said he couldn't say anything about it, which is pretty typical for Woody. That movie turned out to be Deconstructing Harry.
Cool film. Very cool film. Now, next up is Fred Willard.
Fred Willard, yes.
Another Second City veteran.
Can I take this bio? Do you mind?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Fred Willard is a really prolific actor. His IMDb page currently lists 305 acting credits. And here's just a handful of the places that you probably know him from. Especially recently on Modern Family, he plays Phil's father, Frank Dunphy. On Review, he was Forrest McNeil's father-in-law who died on a space flight. And speaking of space flights, in Wall-E, he was the only live-action character, Shelby Forthright, the CEO of By and Large. In Chicken Little, he and Catherine O'Hara were the aliens' parents. I'm sure that they were cast because people were fans of these movies.
Yeah.
He was Robert's father-in-law, Hank, on Everybody Loves Raymond, a role for which he earned 3 Emmy nominations. He appeared in over 100 sketches on Jay Leno's The Tonight Show. And, of course, he was news director Ed Harkin in Anchorman and the sequel. Now, like all of the interviews today, Willard is part of the long-standing Christopher Guest ensemble, but I think he's the only one in this group who was also in This Is Spinal Tap, with Christopher Guest. If you remember, he was the colonel at the military base who greets the band and brings them in right before they surprise everyone by inappropriately playing Sex Farm Woman. Some of you might remember that Fred Willard appeared in 8 episodes of the TV sitcom Roseanne, playing an old boyfriend of Martin Mull, who, by the way, was his old partner from the 1970s TV show Fernwood Tonight. Anyway, in season 8 of Roseanne, the 2 characters got married. This was in 1995, when gay couples were still very rare on television and gay marriage was absolutely taboo. So, of course, this was controversial. That episode aired only 1 year prior to this interview, so of course he's asked about it. Finally, my standard, there's a beep edit in the middle, and here's your language warning. He swears a couple of times. Greg, anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good. You covered it well.
So here is Ron Albertson himself, that's the character name, Fred Willard.
This is Fred Willard.
Hi. All right. Oh, great. Who was funny? Bob Balaban?
He was just telling us about filming Catch-22 and stuff.
Oh, was he in that?
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the people who didn't get fired from that.
It was his first movie.
By all accounts.
I worked with people who were Dick Benjamin and Buck Henry, the whole bunch.
What are your memories?
My memories were secondhand. There was some very interesting, yes. Wasn't there a guy that got cut in half with a helicopter or something?
There was an accident, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was telling Balaban, that was like the water world at its time. It had tons and tons and tons of bad ink. It still went on to make money. You know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Ed, you know, of course, this role is going to give travel agents a bad.
How easy is it to be good at being bad?
For me, it's for some reason I can be bad. I have a way of turning off that little censor thing you have in your mind where you say, I shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't act this way, or I shouldn't say something. I did it on Fernwood tonight, and I found a lot of things come, about to say, and I said, no, I shouldn't say that. I think it runs in my family. Now, by being bad in the dance sequences in this movie, we had to rehearse very hard. Unless Parker Posey is a dancer, I don't think any of us are dancers or singers. I've done some singing, but that was the hardest part of the movie, doing that rehearsal. We had a choreographer. We spent many hours, and it was pretty tough doing we went into a sound studio to do the music, because there's a time when we thought we might lip sync, and that was most of the day, and it was tough getting parts. I'm not good at I can sing some songs that are simple, but parts and coming in and hitting the right keys is a problem.
But I mean, it's like your career future depends on how good you are in a movie. People start going, okay, we won't call those people in that movie anymore.
It comes pretty easy to me. Someone once said to me, they said, you and John Wayne are two people who can talk and talk and make no sense. So I took that as a compliment.
But how easy was it to do a film where there was no set rules, no script?
That is tough. At first you think, when Chris talked to me about being in it, I'd been in Spinal Tap, and I said, well, that's pretty easy. I just figured what the scene was, and it was just, let's try to make them laugh, try to be funny. And then I went home and I said, that's going to be 4 weeks every day on the set. I said, this is going to be a little tougher than I thought. Plus, there's one good thing, you don't have to memorize lines, but the bad thing is you have to be writing your lines, and you have to, you can't just sit back and say, gee, this scene is funny. I hope the camera comes around to me. You really had to, speak up and to be in it. And the worst thing to do is finish and then say, okay, that's cut, let's move on, and say, oh, no, I should have said this or I should have said that. So that was the challenge, and I did a lot of homework on the role. I thought a lot about my character and research on some of the things we were supposed to have done. I found out, I called Chris a couple of times to say, now what plays did we do here in this town? I remember we did a musical version of Backdraft, and I forget there were a couple of others. And I said, now what year did such and such happen, and when did that happen? So I took it pretty seriously. It wasn't just, let's go on the set and see who says what. And there was a definite framework, and you had to tell a story. And so there were those boundaries, which actually made it a little more comfortable. So you suddenly couldn't just veer off on a whole new direction. I don't think we ever did anything more than 2 takes. But I kind of welcomed that, because a lot of times on the first take you realize that you should have said something else. In the second take you go in like more with a head of steam, like running a sprint. First you run, get warmed up, now let's go. So the first one was the warm-up. But there was never any, and I think the only time we did something twice is when we did the interviews, when the 2 heads talking, and then Chris would coach us there, what he liked, what he didn't. Let's start here. He never said he didn't like anything. He'd say, okay, and I like that, let's start with that and compact it and get to the point quicker. Like the restaurant scene in the Chinese restaurant, it was never, let's go back. Yeah, I think we did go back over it, but it was more a continuation. Let's keep going. And actually, it ended too soon. Suddenly, okay, we're done. And I said, oh no, there's more fun to be had here. Let's go on and on.
So were you Kurt Russell or Scott Glenn in the musical Backdraft?
Let's see. I don't think that was ever. But I did. I think I rented the movie to watch it. I think I pictured myself as Kurt Russell. I thought I'd make references to it. And But I definitely wanted, because I had to play President McKinley when he came through Blaine to receive his honorary stool. I had to research what president he was, because I figured my character would be the kind of guy who would go on and on through life talking about McKinley. Now I found that McKinley was assassinated yet. Actually I wanted to have the joke that I'd researched McKinley to what I thought was the extreme, and the other character said, and ironically, he was assassinated, and I didn't know that. I said, I don't think he was assassinated. And I don't know that. I don't think that was in the movie, and I tried to, that's one time where I cued the other actor. I said, I think it'd be funny if you'd say, and also an interesting thing that he ended up being assassinated. I said, was he assassinated? I thought it'd be funny that you research a character's whole life and not know he was assassinated. So that's why I did that.
That's not important, it's the life.
That's the life. So I probably over-prepared. But we did like our audition scene. We rehearsed that. We had to go in the day before. We had a piano player. But Catherine and I did it. No one directed us on that. We decided exactly what we wanted to do. I think it was Christopher Guest's idea that we would do Midnight at the Oasis because his friend wrote it. And I don't know I think it was my idea to do a scene from Taster's Choice commercial. And Catherine's idea to combine them both, music and, I think my idea was to do the scene and then say, now for our next number, we're going to do, she said, let's combine it. But we rehearsed it, and I guess Chris says he had no idea what we were doing until we walked in and did it. But from the other end, when we walked in and I saw Bob Balaban sitting there, I have never worked with him, and I've seen him on Seinfeld where he was the head of NBC. And he just was looking at us, and I froze up like you would actually auditioning. And he just looked at us, and I could say, I said, this guy does not like these people. And then he said, I'd like to hear them vocalize. And I really felt, and every scene I had with him, I just felt standoffish. I said, this guy doesn't like these two people. And we had some very funny scenes, unfortunately, that were cut at a party where I'd had a few drinks and hit him on the head with a plastic Coke water bottle. And I thought, what could be more rude than to someone like this than bop and then laugh about it? And but he's a wonderful, very believable actor and very scary. Whereas Eugene, I know Eugene. I just had fun with him. And I think during the movie we had kind of a theme where it never developed in the final project where I just made joke after dental jokes, and then finally we had a little blow up in the gym, and he had to say, look, I don't know what the problem is, and I still, my character was so dense, I kept going, well, it's like pulling teeth getting, but I have great respect for Catherine and Eugene, and I've been such fans of both of them from SCTV, and I've worked with Eugene before, I've never worked with Catherine. So it was like when I found out I was going to play her husband, I was just intimidated at first, and so it was very enjoyable just to be around them. And Eugene, I know, is more of a humor person, like a character. And I did a movie that he wrote and directed a few years ago up here in Toronto called Sodbusters. And it was very dry, and it was very subtle. So I guess that brought out in my character doing jokes and one-liners. I knew that would just be like oil and water to his character, which it was. He was very dry in the movie. So I became like an old vaudeville guy with him. I remember we were walking out of the rehearsal, out of the dressing room, and there was a big punching bag with a big purple lavender bow, and I said, hey, Dr. Pearl, that's Liberace's punching bag. And Eugene had, oh yes. So that was our relationship through the whole movie.
Can you talk about the relationship with Catherine, how you two developed that?
What I didn't know when we were thinking about it is that she was going to have a little, I think that developed during the filming, that she had a little drinking problem, which culminated in the Chinese restaurant scene, which was one of the funniest moments to me when we were filming it, where we went around doing all these lines, and she was getting drunker and drunker, and Chris called for a close-up of her. He says, just drain the glass of wine. So she just, with her eyes like that, and I had an aunt like that once. A lot of drinkers in my family, and she had to drain the glass, And that was so funny to me that this woman would just concentrate on draining, and she got done, she says, Chris, this is really wine in this glass. So then we played that every time she'd do something, I was kind of disapproving, because I was the star of the family too, but I imagined that our home life was just hell. When we walked in that house, it was just hell. And when we walked out, I was like the king, and she was a step or two behind me. And I worried a lot of times in interviews that I was taking stage too much away from her, but I realized that she was, with just a look or something, she was, stealing scenes. So I found in working with people like her and Eugene and Chris Guest, it's actually a luxury, because you know they're going to hold up, and it makes you're acting better, you're improvising.
Well, even before there was an SCTV, there was an Ace Trucking Company.
Oh, you remember that? Sure.
Hey, George Maboli, Patty Deutsch,
yes.
Saluga.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you later on where they are now.
Okay.
First, I'd like to know how that kind of background helps you nowadays. I mean, were you able to just slip into that frame of mind?
Yes. Yes. It's hard, because right now I'm in working, doing a show that's improvised in Los Angeles. They called me and asked me to come in and host a show that's done at a theater. Different improvisational guys from Los Angeles. Is a different group every week, and it's a little harder. I spent a year at Chicago's Second City, and I improvised. I would come in with ideas, and Robert Klein was in the company, and David Steinberg, and I'd come in and say, tonight let's do a scene about this, that, and so there was a framework. I'm working open end now, and it's kind of scary, because these young guys in Los Angeles are very inventive, and I'm just holding my own. But Ace Trucking Company was a different training than Chicago. Chicago's Second City is kind of develop a scene. That's what helped me in this movie more. Develop a scene, have characters believable, don't so much go for a joke, an easy joke. Ace Trucking Company we worked more nightclubs, and there you have to do it fast, and just go for a joke, even if it makes no sense. Do a joke, pull out something that happened today, and so it's two different kinds of improv. It's like Robin Williams as opposed to Laurence Olivier, if you were to the different levels. One is just get that laugh and be loud, and the other is develop a scene. And Second City, it's different now, but I guess in the early days, it was just almost like a law. You don't go for a joke. If a scene went on for 20 minutes, as long as there was a development and one thing led to another. And luckily, intellectuals came to see Chicago's Second City, people from the University of Chicago who would sit and just watch these wonderful scenes and characters developed. And today, you go to Second City, it's a lot different. They do things today that it's because entertainment entirely is different. Shorter attention span, quicker jokes.
What's the whatever happened? Can I just finish up on whatever happened to Patty Deutsch?
Patty Deutsch is in Los Angeles. I do voiceovers with her. Michael Mislov, the guy with the long hair, is in New York doing voiceovers. Little Billy realized what a funny man he was, and but he drank, he smoked. He would go to a party, someone would give him pills, he'd take them, and someone would say, "What did you take?" "I don't know." And one day I was having breakfast with him, and I was eating toast and putting jelly on it. He says, "That's going to kill you, you know." I said, "That's going to kill me?" And he did. He passed away, and the coroner's report was morbid obesity was I think his kidney, everything just stopped. It was a shame. It was sad. But we had some laughs.
Sure.
Yeah.
The theater is the improv show in LA.
The Acme Comedy Theater, which is on...
Used to be in North Hollywood.
What?
Used to be in North Hollywood now.
Exactly, yeah. And it's beautiful theater, and they have shows, and this is Friday night at 11 o'clock. We get some of the best improv people in LA, and I say that in all modesty because I sit there and watch them. I say, where do they get these ideas? They're wonderful. I host it so I can come out and do a few jokes and introduce them with jokes, and then even if I bomb, I know I've gotten a few laughs.
Is this being taped for
No.
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 You mentioned Liberace's punching bag. I wonder how your fan demographic has changed since your wedding on television.
Good question. Good question. In the last interview, they asked me, they said if I got any negative feedback. from that. The only negative feedback I got, well, first the positive, 2 different times in public, someone has stopped me who was obviously gay. They'd recognize me, they'd turn, they said, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate how you tastefully played that part. And so I said, well, thank you very much. And I think they did. I think Roseanne is very conscious of being, she made it that Roseanne was making it distasteful. Did you see the show? And that Martin had to lecture her how she was doing everything in a bizarre Roseanne. Because Roseanne, I think, is very sensitive to every aspect of that. And we played it. I tried to play it as, as straight and as, there could have been a lot of jokes, I could have been campy and all. And we didn't. And so I got a couple of positive comments, but I was at a celebrity tennis function once, and when you go to the banquet, all the celebrities tend to sit together. So I said, well, that's not right. These people pay a lot of money, and the thing is meet the celebrities who were playing tennis. So I decided to go around and make the round and say hello to people, and some lady says, now, tell me what you've done, darling. What have you done on television? I said, well, maybe you saw me on Roseanne recently. She said, you weren't the guy who married another man, were you? And I said, yeah, that's me. She said, that's why I stopped watching the show. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I am sorry you didn't like it. I didn't write it, and I moved on. But that's the only negative. But I think there still is a, probably people have objections to that. But this year, I think we're supposed to adopt a baby. So I that's what got me, that's what sold me on it. Martin called me last year and he said, the writers asked me, would you like to come on the show? We would get married and eventually adopt a baby. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Tell them I would love to do it. Yeah, so I hope that storyline continues this year. It's great fun.
Did you have to think about that beforehand as to what that might do within the industry?
Actually, I think 20 years ago you'd really have to think hard about it. But a couple of years ago they asked me if I wanted to come on and be his romantic interest. And I didn't want to because at the time it seemed awkward because we worked so much together. Also, we were doing radio commercials for Red Roof Motels. I don't know if that plays up here. And I said, I don't know. And we were getting pretty good money to do that, and they used our name. This is Martin Mull and Fred Willard for Red Roof Inns. And I said, I wonder how they're going to feel about seeing us as gay lovers and what goes on in this motel. Is it for gays only, or is it straight people? People calling, and now I'm coming with my wife. Will we be accepted? So I said, no, I'd rather not. And then I regretted it because I said, gee, who am I kidding? Roseanne, there's a lot of exposure. So when he called again, I said, absolutely. And my career isn't one where suddenly it'll all come falling down. I don't do that much anyway, So I said, sure, why not? I can do a lot worse things than being on Roseanne. And it's great fun being on her show. There's always the marriage show. Sandra Bernhard, who I'm a big fan of. Mariel Hemingway did a cameo, Milton Berle. And there's always excitement on the set. Someone's always having a fight, and she's kicking someone off the set, and they're saying, let's take this scene again. She says, no, but Rosie, no, fuck it, let's move on. And I said, oh, great, because we've already done it like a third time, and it's just to the point, as an actor, where I know as a guest star, it's going to be, oh, God, I got through 3, now I'm going to start forgetting my lines, and she moves on. I say, oh, great, it's in the can, So I like that.
What about WKRP? That was a good show.
Now that wasn't me, and it's funny because when I went into the other interview, they said, "Tell us about Frank Bonner." So I said, "Why did you say that?" And because I'm mistaken for him all the time. His character on WKRP was modeled after the one I did on Fernwood. I did Jerry Hubbard, and he told me, he said, their show went on a year later, and he said, my character was patterned after that. And we're mistaken all the time, and I guess every place he goes, they say, hey, Jerry Hubbard, and where I go, they say, hey, WKRP. And this, last year, I was supposed to do a kid's show called AJ's Big Adventure, where the kid goes back in a time machine to a special time in history. And we were supposed to be the Wright brothers. They called me, they said, you and Martin Mull would be wonderful for this. I said, great. And then they called and they said, Martin is not going to be available. And gee, it's a shame because it would have been a good, and I said, oh, I'm going to lose this. I said, what about Frank Bonner? And they said, oh, that's wonderful, because we always get mistaken for people. So we played brothers on that. And then I did the new WKRP in Cincinnati, and the plot was that people saw me kissing the secretary, and they thought it was Frank Bonner's character having an affair, but it turned out I was her father. So it's a legitimate mistake. We're mistaken for each other all the time. In fact, I did a pilot once. After the third day of shooting, I was walking off the set with the producer. And he said, now, Fred, when you did WKRP, you worked in front of a live audience, didn't you? I said, oh, my God, he thinks that's why I got this part. He thought I did WKRP. And I forget what I said to him, whether I said that wasn't me or it wasn't me. But I did do WKRP with Frank.
You bring up Fernwood. Is that one of the best TV times you've had?
Absolutely the best. I'm remembered for that the most. People see me and, hey, Jerry Hubbard, or hey, Fernwood tonight. I went on, I did Real People, which was network, and I was on that for several years, but people would recognize me and say, hey, where's Sarah? Where's Skip? And well, in fact, we went on a train tour from Los Angeles to Chicago. We were on a train, we'd come to each city, and boy, that was thousands of people. I guess it was the old days like when Jack Dempsey or presidents. And I'd be signing autographs, and they'd say, would you get Sarah to sign this? And I would go back in the train and sit down. But I wasn't a regular. I was on the first season, and I didn't want to come back, and I came back. So they stuck with it. She and Skip were the big stars. But that was a fun show to do. But Fernwood was the most fun because you could improvise. We worked with some very funny characters who came on, Kenny Mars, and if you remember the Rabbi Shecky Stein, who was hilarious. He'd come on, he'd say, Shalom and Bacha. And one day I said, Kip, that was the actor. I said, what does Shalom and Bacha mean? He says, absolutely nothing. I said, I thought it meant something in Hebrew. But it was so funny because they came on and he performed a wedding ceremony. And in my character, I said, Rabbi, you're probably hungry. Why don't we get the rabbi a ham sandwich and a glass of milk? And then a month later, he was back as the couple was getting divorced. And he was right back without batting an eye. We're here to separate this couple. And I thought that was very funny, that it wouldn't faze him that a month later they were getting, it didn't work out, go in love.
You had real celebrities on the show, though, too.
I didn't know Roseanne Arquette was on. She was one of the Fernwood swim team that we didn't have our own pool, so they had to swim on a table. And someone said, that was Roseanne Arquette. I said, my God. I went back and looked at the tape. It was Charlene Tilton. She was one of the sisters that got spanked or something. Robin Williams, one of his first shows was that. Gary Coleman. Corey Feldman was on. He was a little boy. I remember he came on with Gary Coleman. They're supposed to do a children's version about Fernwood. And Gary Coleman was so precocious. And he said something to this Corey Feldman, and Corey Feldman fumbled, and Gary Coleman banged the bell. He says, too late, you're too late, bang, let's move on. And Corey Feldman and I said, oh, this poor little boy, he's probably going to go home and say, Mommy, I don't want to be in business anymore. Now, about a year ago, I had to go in and audition for him. He was producing a movie. And I had to go in, and it was so awkward, because he's, Fred, how are you? I said, Corey, good to see you. And I didn't get the movie. I was completely wrong for the movie anyway, but I said, this is ironic that I'm sitting there and he was sitting over there with an earring. Tell us, what have you been doing since Fernwood, Fred?
Were there times when you wondered how on earth some of that stuff got through? Because I would sit there and watch it and think, my God, how did the censors miss that? Or
I really didn't. At the time we were doing Fernwood, we were just doing it in the studio. I had a feeling no one would watch it. It wasn't, we did about 20 or 30 of them, and then they sent us out on a promotion, and I realized the public was just, I got in a cab one day, and I said, well, I'm going up to so-and-so, and the guy said, you're Jerry Hubbard. And I said, how do you know that? He said, yeah, that show is great. And so then I realized how popular it was, and they couldn't do it again now. They couldn't do, we had talked to a Jewish person that come through Fernwood, and none of us had ever met a Jewish person, and I asked him, I said, what tribe are you from? And you must be very proud of Barbara Streisand, what she's doing. You couldn't do that now. And Norman Lear is one of the most liberal, he founded People for the American Way, and so he was the one who did All in the Family, and you couldn't do that now. There'd be too many groups. We did I told Martin that we'd been invited, I think, to a gay and lesbian picnic, and I said it'll be great to meet them with all their wives and their families. And But it's too touchy now. You can't do that kind of thing. So it was a rare time.
One of the funniest things I ever saw in that show was just a little thing Martin Mull just pointed at the floor.
Yeah, and I would turn and look. Yeah.
About half a minute, and then he turns to a guest and says, "Too many years of varsity ball without a helmet."
Exactly. And he'd talk, and I'd always say, "Well, I could go on and on." He'd say, "Oh no, you can't," and then he'd change the subject. So it was wonderful working with Martin too. He was so sharp, and anytime I get a chance to work with him, I jump at it. So.
You know the thing about Elvis Presley, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. That must be in the bio there, because I grew up on Elvis. The early years was my favorite, and so when I went out to do a nightclub act after Fernwood Tonight, and I had musicians travel with me, and I opened up and I sang One Night with You. I had a cape and Elvis glasses, and after the song, everyone would applaud, and I'd take off the glasses and "It's only me!" And I also had a joke. I said, "I don't know if I'm carrying this off. I'm supposed to be Elvis." And one of the waitresses saw me and said, "I know, Oscar Wilde." But I actually revered Elvis in those early years because I was a country and western fan. And I mean, those first 2 years were really something. And so I hosted Saturday Night Live, and I opened the show doing One Night with You as Elvis. My wife wrote a play called Elvis and Juliet. And I played an Elvis impersonator in it. And then every year in Hollywood they have a Elvis birthday bash. Lately it's been at the House of Blues, where musicians get up to do their tribute to Elvis. And I know the guy who was putting it on. I called him 2 years ago. I said, "I'd like to do a song." And he was really surprised. He said, "I didn't know you sing." I said, "Yeah, sure." So I did You're Right, I'm Left, She's Gone. The 5th song Elvis ever recorded, Sun Records, April 1956. And I did it. And he said, Freddie said, "Now, you said you have an Elvis jumpsuit and a costume." He said, "I don't want any jokes about cheeseburgers." And I said, "Oh, no, you're talking to the wrong guy." I said, "I am a dyed-in-the-wool Elvis fan." So I paid tribute to him, yeah. So
what's your take? Has Elvis left the building?
Elvis did not die originally, but he got a case of the flu, and he did pass away a couple of years ago, yeah. But I tell you, I don't know if you ever heard the tape of Elvis in the book. Did you ever hear the one? That is very convincing. I mean, someone played that for me and gave me the tape, and I wondered for a long time. I said, "Is it possible?" Because I think I can tell Elvis's real voice, and in a minute I can hear someone sing and say, "That's not really Elvis." I said, "That's Elvis talking."
You're the one she wrote the book for.
Yeah. I said, and he's talking about being in Hawaii. I said, "Did they splice this?" But no, he's gone and buried. You can quote that. He's gone. But I noticed no one ever says, no one ever says they saw Liberace someplace or huh? Yeah.
Nobody said that when he was alive for the last 2 years.
I did a joke once that my brother-in-law claimed he saw Liberace drunk out of his skull at an Atlanta Falcons football game. I said, "I don't think so." No, it was him. He's not dead. I said, "No." Yeah, Elvis is gone. He changed. You can say what you want about him, but he changed. I mean, he changed music as we know it. His later years, I didn't care for him.
Certainly those first few.
Huh?
Certainly the first part.
Yeah, definitely. What surprised me mostly of all those early songs, and I thought I knew a lot of, he took from other people. I think the first one that was original with him was Heartbreak Hotel. All those...
Blue Suede Shoes.
Blue Suede Shoes was the other guy. A lot of those other ones were from... the names escape me now. The Roy Brown, Carl Perkins. But there was another black singer who he actually stole his style.
He was for Stevie Wonder. Stevie gave him an award.
No, this is way before.
This guy was a very flash. Not Jackie Wilson. He stole a lot from Jackie Wilson too. I'd know the name if I heard it. Anyway, I was really more, and of course a lot of those country songs, Blue Moon and all. But I was surprised. I was reading. My God, did he do anything original? I think.
Together in his own style.
Yeah, but I think Heartbreak Hotel was the Mystery Train. Was someone else did originally.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Also, did you know? Walking in the Rain. Remember Johnny Ray?
Sure.
That wasn't his original version. Someone called the Prisonaires did it. They were actually prisoners in prison. They wrote and did Just a Walking in the Rain, and they'd never Oh, no, Johnny Ray claims he'd never heard their version of it, too.
Yes, that's right.
So I could talk musical trivia for a long time.
Well, as long as Cry was still Johnny Ray's, we're okay.
Cry was. There's a wonderful book called Rock of Ages, which takes music from about the mid-'40s and traces it into the early blues and country music. It's a fascinating book, through Elvis, and you see who wrote what and who... Oh, I thought someone said... All right, nice talking to you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Fred, we're going to keep you in here.
So you liked us so much or nothing?
I've been held over. Oh, yes.
By popular demand.
A callback.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Elvis Talk with Matt and Greg. Hope you enjoyed all those Elvis stories.
Yeah, nice.
So next up we have a press conference. It's a 39-minute press conference with Catherine O'Hara and Parker Posey, who we have already heard from.
Yeah.
But now we're adding in Eugene Levy and Christopher Guest. Now, please be aware that many of the journalists in the room had not attended the individual interviews. They just came for the press conference only. So some of the questions that they ask are going to duplicate questions that you've already heard. They ask the same things. And consequently, the answers are the same. So it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So there's a bit of repetition here, but not word for word. You know, they kind of vary it. There are also some weird audio things going on in the beginning, but it fixes itself pretty quickly, so don't worry about that. You know, within the first 20 seconds, it sounds fine, so just endure. The first voice you're going to hear is Christopher Guest, so here's the press conference.
Here we go.
Thank you very much. Oh, you want me to answer that? I do. Yes. How it began. And then I asked Eugene if he wanted to work with me in creating the story for the film. And we worked on that together in tandem. In other words, together. And then we gave it to Castle Rock, and they said, well, we should actually go ahead and make the film. And then we did. Make the film. I'm sorry?
Do you know a Corky or many Corkys?
There you are.
Do you know a Corky or many Corkys?
I'm not allowed legally to answer that.
Someone like Corky.
Maybe, yes.
How well?
Yes. I must say.
Do you ever have any idea of releasing the 59 or 60 hours that you or share that?
Yes. Yes, that'll be coming out tomorrow, before the actual film comes out. Well, I think what will happen, I imagine, is that later on, if we do a laser disc and a CD-ROM and a complimentary wristwatch, that will come out in that format so people can see some of the other material that didn't end up in the film.
No miniseries?
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Robert, Chris.
Yes, hi. No.
To go back a little further, the inspiration for this film, did you do a lot of work in community theater when you were a young guy, or is your heart drawn to, you know, people trying to make a show wherever or whatever?
I began working in a local theater. My first show business experience was in Maine, working in a theater in a little town called Skowhegan, Maine. And it was a small theater that did shows, and I was painting scenery and picking things up for people. And then I went into the theater in New York City, and I did that for a long time before I did television films.
So are any of these characters perhaps figures from your past or affection?
Well, maybe unconsciously, that, yeah. Yeah.
How much was written and how much was improvised?
I don't know. I wasn't around for the actual making of the film. You Gene?
You weren't around, so that I don't know how much of it was improvised. The dialogue was improvised in the movie. I mean, the story was there, the scenes were there. Everybody knew what information had to come out in every scene, and how they went about and did it was up to them when the cameras turned on. You know what I mean? All the scenes were improvised, but you know what I mean? The story was definitely, they weren't rehearsed.
The script was 30 pages long. Most of that was the play, the actual play that we put on, and the other stuff was one-line descriptions. Ron and Sheila talk about working at the travel agency, and Ron and Sheila showed up to set with their history and their characters and started talking. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Eugene, can you tell us about Dr. Pearl, just how you created him, how you saw him?
The first time I saw him was when I put the glasses on and looked in a mirror in the makeup room, and it was, and there's a lot of Dr. Pearls, that you kind of run into in life, and these are, they're very, very lovely guys and very sweet guys, and guys that think they really know how to tell a joke, and guys that feel like they have to, spend more time entertaining you than actually doing what it is they do, for a living. So, that was the thing. And it was just kind of an amalgam of a whole bunch of different characters that you come across in life and see on TV and whatever. I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where the thing comes from. It's kind of just you get it, like with everybody, that these characters actually just came to life. I don't think anybody, and I'm sure I can speak for everybody in the cast. But I don't think anybody really had a strong idea of who they were when, before the thing started. I think that, once you actually started the movie and started interacting with everybody else, the characters really fleshed themselves out,
Eugene, considering success of the Spinal Tap albums, is there any chance of
Thank you.
Kishka being released as a single?
Bobby made a Kishka. Well, I'm hoping this goes on the soundtrack album that will be released with the movie, and it probably we try and get it in as many languages as we can, just so it has an appeal around the world.
Eugene, have you ever?
I'm sorry.
See Spinal Tap doubly instead of
Oh,
I'll tell you about
geez,
it later.
no, really, fill me in.
Talk now.
No, the thing was, there was a lot of the movie I missed, and when I saw it originally, because I don't know why, no, it's been a while since I've seen Spinal Tap, and I've got to rent it again.
I'd like to ask Catherine something she said in a piece that was in the paper recently, where you were speaking rather.
You believed it?
Rather self-deprecatingly about your past improvisational work, and you're pretty well thought of as the funniest woman in Canadian television history. Like, do you
Oh, then let's leave it at that. Don't ask me what I said. No, sorry. What stupid thing did I say?
Well, something about you were the baddest of the bad, and you were.
Oh, in this movie, I maintain that these other actors were actually thinking about future work when they were doing this, which I always forget to do. Like, will this ever actually get me another job? I'm just so happy to have this one. And they were actually thinking of the future, and in all of their characters within the show, the show within the movie, they showed that they could actually act if it was required, and they could actually sing or dance if it was required, where I maintain that my character showed absolutely no potential. I was the baddest of the bad.
Did you encounter my character in the movie?
I'm sorry?
Did you encounter my character in the movie?
Yes, you can actually see
The big future for the Doctor?
I think they cut to Lloyd, who knows music, reacting to your singing.
Yeah.
A beautiful voice. I'm finally hearing one.
That's true. Well, I can see a whole string of carry-on movies with this guy, but...
Joe.
Christopher, one of the things I really like about this film is it's not mean-spirited. It's almost a sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, how difficult was it for you to maintain this balance, the idea of it having a satirical edge, but not really being cruel to these people?
Well, it was important to Eugene and I right from the outset to make this a sweet story about people and not be mean. It's not the point of the movie. It's not the point. It's not really a satire in itself at all. It's just a slice of life about a small town. So that's very important. That would distinguish it and separate that from being a sketch where you don't really care about the people because your investment is 10 minutes and then it's over and you had some laughs. But this is, hopefully, you're rooting for these people.
Was it difficult to cut from 60 hours? I mean, it was so many.
No, it was really easy. I would say that was the most difficult thing that I've ever done. It took a year in the editing room on an Avid, which is a computerized system, and even given that, it took a full year. So yes, that was it was very difficult.
How did you decide which scenes to keep?
I roll dice, basically.
It's a pretty amazing feat, considering that, you know, when films are usually cut in an editing room, the editor is using the script as a guide to cut the scenes. But because there was no script and no dialogue, everything that was shot, which is also a little different than most movies, where when you do take after take after take, certain takes are selected to be printed. And those are the takes the editor works with. In this movie, everything that was shot, every single take, was printed. So if something was done 6, 7 times, whatever, every camera angle, you know, all that footage was printed, and that's all the stuff that Chris and Andy Blumenthal, the editor, had to work with in the movie. So there's 50 hours of stuff that you have to shape into, you know, your story. I think they did an incredible job. You know, I mean, it's kind of sad to think that there's so much really good stuff that didn't make the movie. And I remember Chris telling me that when they were doing Spinal Tap, that, you know, he said, you know, they got it down. The first cut they saw was something like 3 hours, and you said, well, this has to be the length of the movie, because what can you take out? Everything looks great, everything is playing, everything is funny. It's going to have to be a 3-hour movie. Well, it came out, and, you know, to be an hour and 20. I mean, it's just you have to be kind of brutal to get the stuff down. I think that probably was one of the tough things that Chris had to do, was how brutal do you have to be to, you know, get it down to an appropriate length. And
are you going to bring out a director's cut?
This is the director's cut. This is it.
As a follow-up to that, being that you worked with all of these people in a very special sort of a situation where you were really maybe even closer than you could be on a normal screenplay situation, did any of them try to bribe you or tell you that they wanted some of their stuff back in there? I know I talked to Bob yesterday, and he said his B stuff really upset him that none of there's a whole section of him DVDs, and he felt all of his B scenes were quite emotional for him.
He's taking me to court, which I find strange. The B thing, he calls it. And the judge is not taking it very seriously, which I don't find hard to believe. Yeah, so I basically 5 lawsuits on my hands right now.
Parker?
Question for Catherine.
Just let me cut in with a question for Parker. Bill, I'll come back to you afterwards. What are you suing Christopher about?
What?
What are you suing Christopher about? What scene has he dropped of yours that you'd like to see in the film?
Probably my monologue that I had.
Parker did a monologue when she auditioned for the show. Aside from singing Teacher's Pet, she did a...
I had a monologue where I pulled the plug in a hospital room and killed my brother. And I had a little mime in there and stuff. But it was a little too
See
long.
what I mean?
It was a little too long. I think it was like 3 minutes, and you know. But no, I mean, the film is what it is. Whether it's 3.5 hours or an hour and 20 minutes, it could be anything. I think it'd be great to have it on CD-ROM and be able to click on different characters and hear about Lloyd's bees, or see Ron in the backyard playing baseball, or you know, and whatever, I'm tired. Good morning.
Thanks, Bill. Sorry.
Question that I had for Catherine, I think in the same article that I was reading about you in the paper, it said that you have a number of frightening situations still happening to you because of the Home Alone situation. And the question is, doing more material like this and being recognized away from Macaulay Culkin's mother situation, is that going to help? And could you tell us a couple of the funny stories that have happened? I guess parents and children walked up to you and said, "Oh, did you ever let your son?"
Oh, no, just one little, well, the response I almost always get from kids is, why are you here? You're Macaulay's, or you're Kevin's mother and you don't belong in this world, and just really disturbed looks. Not like adults might be happy to see you in person, just really disturbed. I always feel I've disappointed them greatly. And this one little kid said, how could you leave your child home twice? Once was bad enough, but why twice? I was like, I know, I'm sorry. They offered a lot of money for the second, and look, you just wanted to see him with the burglars, didn't you? And that was funny, wasn't they? Just needed us to get out of the way so that he could, And he said, isn't that called abandonment? Yeah, sorry. So I'd rather be accused of anything I did in this movie than abandoning the child.
Did you tell us about your hairstyle? Some designs for you?
Oh, for the film, you mean? Yes. I can. I was going to shave my head bald, which I thought would be a riot. And someone mentioned that it may not grow back, that there are times when it actually doesn't grow back, and then I thought that might not be that funny. And so I decided just to wear the really cheap toupee on top of it, where it would be clear that he was bald, but that was his choice, so that was pretty simple.
When you're trying to cut down the tape from the film from the 60 hours you start out with, do you look at it as a dramatic filmmaker, or do you try and get that documentary style? Do you research documentaries? Do you actually get involved in the documentary process? Because it has that sort of PBS point of view kind of...
Well, it is essentially a documentary in the sense that the ratio of footage that we did to what comes out, you are making a documentary in the same sense that you shoot a real documentary and you make the story after the fact. The only difference here was I knew what the essential story was. There were subplots that don't appear in the film, is to get a linear story. Therefore, some of the scenes didn't become part of what ended up to be ultimately the final film. I approached it as you would making a serious documentary, to tell this story.
And did you actually research any documentaries?
Well, there was nothing to research. I looked at a lot of documentaries before shooting the film just to get a sense of currently that you don't see the people interviewing in the way we did in Spinal Tap. We saw the interviewer. I wanted to make a conscious decision not to see that person in this film. And in that regard, I looked at some documentaries, but in the process of editing, there's no research to be done. You're working on your own film to try to tell a clear story. I knew a lot of it was funny. I just needed to also tell the story.
Catherine, what was it like working with Eugene again?
Oh, a dream come true.
I knew it would be.
We haven't actually improvised since about 1973, have we? Or 74.
That's true. Second City. That was the last time we actually improvised in a movie. And actually, even then, most of my stuff was scripted. You never knew that. But
Just
yeah.
work around your script.
Sorry, that's pure.
No.
Oh, that was it?
Scary. He was not scary. No, he's great. He's so strong and powerful and never at loss for words. And when I was the last I remember from improvising in the early 70s was that I would usually play these aggressive kind of loudmouth characters. Not that I was coming up with anything original or funny, just I would be like just out there nervous and way too much. And that probably would have been my instinct this time too, but working with Fred, who was so strong and funny, forced me into this submissive role, which I may not have chosen on my own, so I'm grateful for,
But it worked with the character as his wife, kind of like trying to do more for him and less for herself.
Oh yeah, there's no other position to take.
But that's another example of how these characters kind of shape themselves by the interaction with other people. I mean, that's
Right,
case
how we
in point
treated
right
each
there.
other, what we said to each other would, somebody would give you something in a scene, you go, oh yeah, I could be that. And you'd go with that idea.
The scene where you had had too much to drink and you start talking about your marriage, that was just hysterical.
Yeah, I love that, just to reveal something you don't maybe know about these two. Yeah.
Was that in the outline, Fred's surgery, or is that something you just came up with?
Yeah, that was Chris's. Something he had to have. He never forced any ideas on us, but something he had to have was the penis reduction. Right?
Which is going to catch on, by the way, I think is a... Yes.
Directing people who are improvising is kind of like, a dichotomy there. So how much do you tell them to do and how much do you let them on?
Well, I think it is. It's a paradox, and I think the only connection you have with conventional film is that if I see after a take that something is going in a direction that I don't think is working, I would say something, but then this is kind of a catch-22. The reason these people are in the movie is because they're really wonderful at what they do, and a high percentage of the time their instincts will be correct, and so my job is really to let them do what they can do. That becomes as important as saying, do something else, I believe.
Joe? I'm interested in the thought process that goes into choosing locations. This is supposedly a mythical town in Missouri, and you shot it in Austin and Lockhart, which of course is one of the world's greatest barbecue. Why? Why there?
Well, we were going to go to Missouri or Kansas, and we were shooting in February, and we didn't want to make this about people standing around in cold weather, and it was a practical decision more than we should go to Texas. There was a good chance we were going to go to the Midwest, but we didn't want to. It limited our opportunities to do scenes if we wanted to have them outside in the middle of the winter, and so we went to Lockhart, and it looks like many other towns. We saw pictures from towns in Kansas and Missouri, and we found the one that looked the closest like the ones we'd seen from the photographs.
Did that particular locale end up lending anything to the movie?
Oh, I think very much, yeah. I think it made all of us feel we were in the place that we should be. It had the right feeling to it, yeah.
And warm.
Alex?
Parker, you grew up in the South yourself. What was it like going back to doing that kind of accent?
Oh, it was fun. It was I mean, I knew girls like Libby May, and I had a Dairy Queen in my hometown, and Mom took us to get derbies, and every Sunday, and we looked at houses. I mean, I knew, it was easy. All I had to do was react and, come up with the character and just go to work and put on the costume.
Parker, sorry, excuse me. You were dealing with people who had worked together a lot in the past, if not a cohesive group, then at least people whose ties or hooks were in each other. How did they welcome you? How did they make you part of that?
It was everyone was so nice and sweet and encouraging, and I was really surprised after the fact that I did have freedom. Chris is just so wonderful, and I'd never done anything like this, and I couldn't believe that I was with these people. I didn't think of it like in the beginning. I kind of denied a lot. I had seen movies, I'd known these actors and about them, and everyone I told I was working with them were just like, oh my God, I can't believe. So I denied that so I wouldn't be intimidated. But doing it was really fun, and you give away and listen to these people, and it makes the job very easy, when the people are talented and brilliant, as these people are.
Hey, I was a fan of yours too, Parker, because I watched your soap opera.
What? Oh, that's
I was
right.
a fan of Parker's too. That's the girl from As the World Turns. I got all the inside stories on all the actors in the show.
Right.
Christopher, in regards to the music in the play, who collaborated on it, and particularly who wrote the overture, which is actually very moving?
It is. The show, to start with, the play itself, Eugene and I wrote the book, if there is a book, to Red, White, and Blaine. And I collaborated with Harry Shearer and Michael McKean, who I worked with on Spinal Tap. We wrote the music and words for Spinal Tap. And the arrangements were done by C.J. Vanston, and based on the songs in the show, he wrote and arranged the overture, which is brilliant. It's a brilliant overture. It actually, there's some songs that aren't in the film, which we're going to put on seriously, we are going to actually put them on a little CD. One of them's called This Bulging River. And it's a great song, very dramatic, and someone will hear that at some point.
When you actually see the show taking place and you see that they've actually pulled it together, like you expect it to be so bad. And then when you find out that the overture actually goes off without a hitch and that the show actually does have some quality, you almost root for these people.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have music that it's easy to do something bad and write bad songs, but it's a challenge to write something where this is not so bad, this is pretty good, and the tunes are actually kind of catchy, and it's that balance, trying to get that right balance.
I just wanted to ask Parker, did you ever think Party Girl would become a sitcom, and do you think there's a chance for this show as well?
I'm waiting for Guffman as a sitcom. I guess, yeah, they'll make a TV show out of anything. They're,
I'd love to be around for the table read on that, actually.
Tony Danza will be doing Chip, the part of Corky.
Okay. That's a good choice. Yeah, of course, there's going to be a series of Party Girl. They're making, movies out of TV shows and TV shows out of movies, and, I don't know why the ideas aren't getting new and different, and they're kind of like, making stuff out of other things. But yeah, I mean, I read for the part and they told me I was wrong for it. I said I could do it and they just shut the door in my face. No, yeah, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to, it was something I'd done already, and so.
Christopher, are you at all worried about the PC police getting its back up before?
No.
I mean, was there ever any thought to, well, I can't go that far?
No, because, no.
I don't think anyone would be.
I think the final judge is, if everyone's laughing, no one's going
Really? Okay.
Well, that was a factor. That was a factor. Just trying to get laughs, I think, was
yeah, I wasn't being facetious. I don't think people, I can't speak for if people are offended, they're offended, but I don't think so. That certainly wasn't the intention.
Was anything cut out because you thought it might be too racy?
Racy? Well, this isn't really a racy movie. You mean the nudity or the...
The all-nude rehearsal?
There's that... There you are. Well, oddly enough, the rating changed in this movie. In the rehearsals, there's a man who does some dialogue from the film Raging Bull, and we had to get permission to use the dialogue from I talked to the writers, and they said, well, sure, if you want to use this, go ahead. That, I believe, was the main thing in making this whatever it is, other than a PG-13. Thank you. So there was nothing racy about this movie. There's no violence and there's no nudity, but you have a guy saying a funny joke, I think, and I didn't want to cut that out, so I left it in.
So you ended up with an R? There's no MK?
Is it R?
It's not on the poster.
It's R, yeah.
Sir in the back.
Christopher, how is your recently inherited title going to affect what you do in film in the future, and how do you think fellow members of the House of Lords will look at Corbin?
I have to get back to you on that. I don't know. Haven't thought about it that much. He's lying.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I honestly haven't thought about that much, but I'd be glad to talk to you about it later. Not literally, but I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't know.
Good answer.
Yeah, I really, I don't know. I don't know.
What exactly is the title?
He seems to know about it. Maybe I could. No, I don't generally talk about it in this context, but.
We all have a new respect for you, though. I want you to know that.
Mr. Can you talk about the dancing? Because you can't really write dancing. You wrote the book for the play, but there's a lot of dancing, and you had to make it funny.
Yes. Well, I had some ideas. There's a brief scene of me dancing in my loft, which I just did what I thought was funny to do. I didn't plan that out, because if that had been planned, I would be in jail right now. But, and so we hired a choreographer, and I gave her an outline of some moves that I thought were funny, and then she filled in. It was a collaboration. The rest of I wanted this to look a little bit derivative from Broadway and jazz dancing, and not that inventive, just kind of funny.
Christopher, you have a lot of support in this movie from the people at Raging Bull, from Remains of the Day, My Dinner at Willard.
Right.
How difficult was that to achieve? Was it just a phone call? Or?
Well, when I was at school, Andre Gregory was one of my teachers, and this is going back a long way in university, and Wally is a friend of mine, Wally Shawn, and I called them up. They both said immediately yes. They were pretty straightforward. The difficult one was the lunchbox.
Remains of the Day?
Remains of the Day. It turned out that they didn't, Emma said, great, go ahead, and then there was a little bit of a twisting turn to get that done, but ultimately it was...
Has Jamie seen this and she understands a lot?
She has seen it, yes. She enjoyed it, I think. She was on the set once in a while. Yeah. We don't go to each other's sets that much, because when you're not working, that's not really where you want to hang out on sets. But she came to visit with my daughter, yeah.
Why has it taken so long to do something else along the Spinal Tap?
Time. Well, it takes a lot of time, and that's a hard thing to do. This will be 2 years. The editing, again, as I mentioned, is a year alone, and it's very demanding and very difficult. You can't just roll right into another one of these. You'd need a big break.
Too bad for us.
No.
Do you have anything on the front or back burner that Christopher, Catherine, Eugene, or Parker could you tell us about the next?
I'm currently working with Eugene. We're in the middle of shooting a film called Edwards and Hunt right now with Matthew Perry and Chris Farley. And Eugene plays a French-Canadian trapper, or such. It takes place in 1803, and it's a group of people trying to beat Lewis and Clark to the northwest. And they've left 2 weeks later, so all the good guys have been taken, basically. And that's what I'm currently shooting, and we finish shooting in the middle of October, and that will come out in the summer. I can't speak for the other.
I'm currently working on a film called Edwards and Hunt, the first American road trip with Chris, which is about 2 guys trying to beat Lewis and Clark. Oh, Parker?
I did 2 films in 2 months, one called House of Yes, one called Clock Watchers, and a day on the Chris Guest film called Edwards and Hunt about that. And I have another movie here at the festival called The Day Trippers, which is really good. So if you guys get a chance to see that. Some other films coming out.
Catherine?
I don't know what I'm doing next, but I have a movie called Last of the High Kings, an Irish movie coming out this fall or winter, I think, I hope, with Miramax. It's Miramax, so I hope they'll let people know it exists. I think they will. No, they're good at that, aren't they? So.
Who directed?
A man called David Keating. It was all done in Ireland, and I used to fake a lot of Irish accents with Second City and SCTV, and it was another deal doing an Irish accent with Irish people.
Had they known any of your earlier work?
I don't think so, no. I worked with Gabriel Byrne, wrote the first draft. He owned the project, and he also plays my husband and the young man's father in the movie. And I'd worked with him on another movie, and he just decided that I should play this role, and he basically talked the producer and director into hiring me. And I met with them in LA, and they said, no, you don't have to audition, but I read the whole script with them and got the part. So I hope it's a great movie. It was a great script.
Does SCTV play around the world or just plays in
It did for a while there. I don't know if it still does, but I remember
Thailand,
there were
I
years
think
there
it was
were.
playing, or the
always
Philippines. No, that
talking
was
about
like the
deals.
first foreign place I think the show we remember hearing that the show was playing was like in the
Really?
Philippines. Yeah, way back, and even when it was in syndication. I don't know. It's still playing. Certainly playing up here. You know, boy, it's been great up here, and in the States.
I think it's on the Comedy
NBC
Channel.
now has the American distribution rights for the show. I don't know what they're doing with it. They're not doing anything right now. I think they're trying to figure out what to do with it. But the problem is it's not being aired, you know, down there right now. So I don't know. And the rest of the world, I don't know. But you know, it's had legs.
Do you all pay attention to the current crop of comedy troupes like Kids in the Hall and This Hour is 22 Minutes? And are you aware of them? And do you happen to watch those programs? And, are you interested in what's happening in today's groups?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's great to see. People are very flattering with, I think, people with Second City and SCTV and say nothing like that exists now, and I keep saying, yes, it does. There are really funny people out there. There's no end to, I think, the resource of funny people. They just need opportunities like Kids in the Hall have, and This Hour is 22 Minutes, which I haven't seen, and I'm mad about it because I'm at a cottage all summer, and we have a dish, and they don't have any Canadian channels on it. And it pees me off. So I haven't seen that. But I understand they're really funny. And Codco, and some of the people are from that, right? Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested, and it makes me feel old when I see the material, because I think, oh yeah, I think there are new ideas.
Catherine, you were talking about comedy talent being a resource. I suppose this is for all of you. Is there any idea why so much comedy talent comes out of Canada, and why does so much of it end up moving to LA?
Do you want to answer the first part? Or
Oh, I have no idea. I've always said Canada's a great straight man, but I don't even know what that means. So I don't have an answer.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's an answer to that. I think it's just kind of who you are. When we started out, there was just a lot of really funny, good people, like just Catherine and Dan Aykroyd and John Candy and Marty Short, and they all seemed to start around the same time, and all came from Toronto. Well, I guess Dan was from Ottawa. Valerie Bromfield. There was just like a whole slew of people, and it's still it's still going on. There's still people that are coming out, Kids in the Hall and stuff, and now they're being discovered and recognized, and But I don't know. I think it's just. I don't think it's. I don't know. Is it kind of disproportionate with the?
Jim Carrey's now making $20 million, and 6 years ago he was playing Yuck here in Toronto. That kind of progression that seems to be coming from this
Yeah.
particular chunk of the country.
I know, but he was making $20 million when he played Yuck, so that was. That's the.
Just an amazing negotiator.
Yeah, he's just moved on to movies. No, I know. I don't know what it is. I think it's just it's hard to find venues to work here because there's just not as many outlets, there's only so many TV shows that are done here, and the movies that are done here, the co-productions and whatever are, they're still bringing in American leads. And the parts that are given to Canadians are still the, small bit parts. And when you see some of the great actors in Canada that have been around for years and are just fantastic actors, and they have to go out and audition for these 1 and 2 day parts. It's great for everybody because people are employed. It's kind of sad in a sense that these people don't have the opportunity to show what it is they can do, But certainly for crews and production people and stuff, it's great. But I mean, people go south because I think there's just more opportunity to work, I guess.
Christopher, do you find a difference working with a Canadian talent like Catherine and Eugene?
Oh, yeah. No, I find in comedy, it's simple. If people are funny, wherever they come from, they're funny. They're more polite.
I'm afraid our time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the press conference with Catherine O'Hara, Parker Posey, Eugene Levy, and Christopher Guest. I thought it was pretty informative. What did you think, Greg?
It was pretty informative. Did you get a lot of good stuff from the press conference, Matt?
I thought they were great. I love the interplay between them. I mean, they've got a great chemistry, which is why they continue making movies together.
Yeah.
And good ones. So that brings us to the end of this marathon episode.
All right.
It's been a long one, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Coming up next time, Greg, you want to tell him? Do you know? Do you remember?
I have no idea.
I'll give you a hint. Catherine O'Hara is not in it playing Sarah Connor, but Linda Hamilton is.
Okay. Dante's Peak? Oh, so Terminator.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Oh, it's going to be the next one. Okay, folks, stay tuned for the next episode, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Before you get, while you're anticipating for that show, please check us out on mattandgregpodcast.com.
Right.
That's our website. And on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Matt and Greg. Please give us your insights and comments regarding our podcast on how we can make it better, et cetera, or worse.
If you would like us to make it worse, we'll be happy to accommodate you.
And there's a ton of movies from the 90s, late 80s and 90s.
I think that would be easy. We just let Greg talk more.
That was a dig, folks. I will be quiet from now on. But let me tell you that just please hit us up for maybe movies you want us to cover from the 90s. Yeah?
Yeah. Send us some requests. There's actually a pretty good chance we've got it. We did a lot of movies in the 90s.
Till then, we'll be back.
Nicely done.
Okay. Till then.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled lives.